It's 6:03, and I will now call the City Council work session meeting to order. And this is a work session on a legislative initiative for fiscal year 27 to I don't think that's. Okay, so this is going to talk about legislative initiatives for fiscal year 27 through 29, 27 long session, and the fiscal year 28 federal appropriations. I'd like to call on Jody Christensen, Special Projects Manager, to present the topic.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I want to share with you that Doug Riggs, who is your state lobbyist, will be joining us a few minutes late, so he does have some slides to present to you this evening. If he's not here in time, we'll move his slides to the end of the presentation. So during our work session today, we'll be reviewing the 26th legislative initiative, and then we'll review proposed 27 priority projects. I want to share with you that part of the legislative work is really aggressive and robust in community outreach, both with the community stakeholders as well as our elected officials. So in 26, we had primarily virtual meetings, but several of them. And then the mayor had the opportunity to go to DC, which is always a good process for building relationships, both at home and in DC. We also make sure that the stakeholder groups and committees that are aligned with the priorities are engaged in that process, and the McMinnville Economic Vitality Leadership Council has been a champion from.
Doug's here. Do you want him to join you
Yes,
at the table?
Thank
That's
you.
what I thought.
Yes, the
Come on up,
seat's
Doug,
for you. Thank you. Great. So as I was saying, the EVLC has been a champion for several projects, and this year they took a tour of Alpine as they built out their support for that project. And we also do a lot of communication, and this is an example of what we call a one-pager, which is actually 2 pages, but it is the leave behind. So when you're having conversations with elected officials and stakeholders, this is the kind of material that you want to have, so you're always keeping the project in mind. There was a lot of success in 26. So in this session, Rep. Elmer, supported by Senator Starr, carried forward the Northeast Gateway Alpine Avenue Street Improvement Project, Phase 2. This completes the remaining 4 blocks of Alpine. It's been a priority project for the last several years. We've taken it to the legislature 3 years. We took it one time to the federal government. So I think it shows that you need to put in the time and patience to bring home the dollars. We were also able to support our partner, the Housing Authority of Yamhill County. Last year, we helped them craft an application to the federal government for an appropriation, and they received $1 million for the McMinnville Rehabilitation House Rehabilitation Program, which will keep 75 of our most vulnerable community members in their homes. There was also policy support, so we supported the transient lodging tax flexibility bills, both 4148 and 4134. This gives a higher split for the city to be able to use for general use, and there's also an opportunity to use some of the funds for grants for small businesses in industries like restaurant and lodging. So over the last several years, the city has been extremely successful, and that's because you have dedicated staff, you have expertise in your directors who participated in legislative work, and the real carry for a lot of this is through the mayor's office. So the mayor carries the message forward, builds the relationships with the elected officials, and it really is important that we support this kind of work at all levels, both at the staff, director, administrative, and the mayor's office. So I think this is a testament to that level of commitment by the city. This is an impressive amount of money that's come to us, and I think that it's a variety of projects. So it's not just in one area, it's not one single project. This is a variety of projects, and I think that proves to the state agencies, to your elected officials, when you give McMinnville money, they can get it done. They can complete what they've promised. This is a community that knows how to work with you to make great things happen. So as we prepare for 27, we want to go through some of the projects and process. So how did this list that we're bringing forward, how did this list get vetted? We wanted to make sure that there were several groups and expertise that were brought to bear on that. So as you know, there's a bi-weekly coordination meeting. This includes the mayor, the city manager, Jeff Hunsaker, Heather Richards, Jenny Berg, and your lobbyist, Doug Riggs. And that group meets every other week for 30 minutes. All year. So that it's a think tank for how do we strategize, what do we know. Doug's giving us the intel from Salem. So it's a really in the moment, and we're really connected to what's happening all across the state, what other people are thinking, how agencies are preparing for the legislature, and how our elected officials are prioritizing. We also have a leadership team, so the Public Works, Community Development, Library, Senior Center, Parks and Rec, all of those people have informed this process as well. Both directors and lead staff have participated in this process, and obviously the executive leadership team. So these are your directors for your departments. This list has been vetted with them as well as city leadership, and I include the mayor and your city manager in that. So it's a list over the last month that we've been meeting with and reviewing and going through the details to make sure that what we're bringing forward to you tonight for your consideration has been thought about and really created a doable set of projects. So tonight we're going to look at the list, and I want to remind you that the list is large. It is a large list, and we're going to ask you to prioritize 2 or 3 projects. But the full list becomes the game plan for your coordination team. So we want to be prepared for opportunities. We want to know that when we're talking with our federal delegation, we're going through the entire list. We want to hear from them what's striking a chord for the senators or for the congresswoman. When we go through the full list with Representative Elmer, what's striking a chord for her? We'll know your priorities, but the list is really for their view to take a look. There might be a project on there that is something that they're interested in, as well as Senator Starr. So it's a full list. And it will and your coordination team will continue to work through that. Doug will be using it as a guide, even though we're asking you to prioritize some of those lists. So where are we in the process? We've reviewed the proposed list that we're bringing for you tonight. We're reviewing that list during this work session. As soon as you've prioritized the list and you're comfortable, or projects, and you're comfortable with the list, there's an immediate shift to we're working the list. And so your team and Doug will start to meet with Rep. Elmer and all of the other elected officials to start to review the list and see where the projects may fall fall. It is good practice in the September, October timeframe to really get the projects that you're going to be submitting for appropriations or for direct allocations. You want to work out all the bugs by September and October. You want to be able to look at a CIP, a capital information project form, and be able to answer the questions on that form, because September, October, November, they're really starting to put things together so they can hit the ground running in January. So January through March, that will be a process that is federal. So there's an appropriation process that Congresswoman Salinas and the senators go through. That process will open up in January. It's a fairly common application form. It's similar every year. And then in January, that's when the Oregon legislature opens. This is a long session, so they have a maximum of 160 days to get through the session. And now we have Doug. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened in 26? Yeah.
Great. Good. Well, thank you, everyone. For the record, Doug Riggs, on behalf of all of you and the citizens of McMinnville, happy to be here. It was a very interesting session. Threw on a few pictures in here. I won't go through any of them and all of them in great detail, but suffice it to say, we stayed busy in the 35 days. And I will say that there's a saying, the early bird gets the worm. I'd say the active bird gets the worm. If you're active, not just during the short session or the long session, but active, as Jody talked about, it's a process. And sometimes it's a multi-session process. You don't get what you ask for the first time, but you try again. And that's, I think that consistency of being engaged in the process is very important. You see some of that here. So next slide. I was trying to think of how to describe the session, and short sessions are always difficult to describe, but I picked three words all starting with P. One was packed. It was a lot going on. It was painful. The process was, very difficult. And the third part of this, the third word was productive, and it wasn't something that I think most of us expected at the beginning of the session. We really thought, a lot of us thought that the session would melt down. There would be walkouts, there would be disagreements, there would be fights, that a lot of things would get kind of waylaid. But at the end of the day, they ended up doing quite a bit, and the city of McMinnville had a productive session as well. On the right side, you see three observations. Number one, we're really in this period of kind of what I call ping pong revenue forecasts. We were way down in August, September. Remember, we heard we were facing a $300 to $500 million deficit, possibly more. In December, suddenly we were only facing a $63 million deficit, and then by the time we got to session, we had a $300 million surplus. I think that's going to be temporary. I think that as a result of higher than expected corporate tax revenues at the end of 2025, because corporations sold stock because the stock market was at a high. My guess is that doesn't happen in 2026. So we could see downward forecasts coming up in the future. And that leads to uncertainty. And whether or not this is a temporary bump. We'll take the temporary bump. Any good news is good news. So next slide. Just some numbers. 304 bills were introduced during the short session. 154 of those appear likely to be signed into law, although one is still a chance of being vetoed by the governor. That's over 50%, which is really pretty amazing. Usually you expect about 10% of bills to pass. So the fact, even in a short session, I think that's a high percentage to pass. So it kind of goes back to what I said the earlier slide. Just as an example of how packed the session was, one bill, I pulled one bill out, 4040, that was a technical correction bill on a whole bunch of fronts for healthcare. It started out 75 pages. had 61 unrelated sections. 36 amendments were introduced for 75 pages, 183 pages. So the total amount of text that we had to read through and understand, and it changed multiple times, was close to 320 pages worth of legislative text, and that was one bill. So your team was active in trying to keep an eye on things. This is another way to summarize the session. 223 submissions of testimony and activities by citizens. I mean, it really is it's a remarkable amount of activity. So next slide. Key issues that we've looked at from an overall standpoint, obviously infrastructure funding was very important and something that we have seen be kind of a hallmark of the legislative action impacting cities the last 2 or 3 years. They really have dug into this idea of water infrastructure, street infrastructure, housing infrastructure. That's really been a theme, and so we kept a close eye on that. Transportation was the big issue. We didn't know what was going to happen with transportation. We did not know whether or not the ballot measure would be moved to November or stay in May. So we kept an eye on that. Behavioral health was a big issue because of the cost of the healthcare programs around the state. Jody mentioned TLT, which was down to the last few days of the session before that got resolved, and those were a few of the key issues. A lot ended up rising and passing from an economic development standpoint. There was one major bill. This is the governor's economic development bill that passed. Something that may be handy for us going down the road is industrial site readiness grants. They capitalized that with $40 million. That was a fairly significant investment, and those will be open for communities to apply for in the coming months. Something that's important around here in the rural areas in Yamhill County is farm stores. The farm store bill passed, creating more flexibility for farm owners to put farm stores up. Pretty controversial, but at the end of the day it passed. Something that impacted cities' ability to report from an ethical standpoint was the public meetings laws and the so-called hot dog bill that got through. Matching grant percentages for small cities doesn't apply to us, but does apply to other cities in Yamhill County. There's some annexation bills, allocation bills, TLT, and then quite a bit of money for maintaining existing affordable housing, so upgrading and maintaining those. Doesn't mean that we accomplished everything, and at the end of the day, some big issues were left unresolved. We didn't solve the transportation funding issue. We solved it on a temporary basis by backfilling, cutting from safe routes to schools and Connect Oregon, but we didn't solve the long-term issue. The voters will decide in May whether or not they supported the package that was passed last September. It'll be in the May ballot. A big question that has come up a number of times is the transportation split, 50 to the state, 30 to the counties, 20 to the cities. That is under attack. People saying, no, let's do 100% to the state. So that would be very difficult and devastating to local transportation maintenance budgets, something we've got to keep an eye on. And then, of course, many cities are in compression, and the whole idea of Measure 5 and Measure 50 is kind of lost on a lot of legislators who weren't around when it was passed in the first place and are relatively new, and that's something that has to be discussed. And then there's still not enough funding in the state to adequately meet the needs for water infrastructure, housing infrastructure, not to mention transportation infrastructure. That's still an unresolved issue that needs to be addressed. So big ticket items, I'll just point out 2 big ticket items that were funded. A grand total of $570 million for the Moda Center. It wasn't $355 million with interest. Once those bonds are paid, it'll be close to $570 to $610 million. It's a lot of money. $215 million in state salary increases, so there were some big items. And then the next steps, and Jody kind of talked about that, the interim is a very important period of time for us and for others who want to advocate for certain policies or budget items. This is the opportunity for us to spend quality time with our legislators, not just per Star and Zeta Elmer, but also with others in the region and at the state level. So, and a few other things on here, including transportation. I'll finish with this, which is partnerships from a city standpoint make the difference. We are not alone in our need for this type of funding or these types of projects. We're joined by many of our fellow cities around the state. We're we're in a unique position with our population as far as not being large enough to be eligible for some programs, but being too big to be eligible for others. There are a handful of cities in that category, and we need to work with our fellow cities that are in that category. A great partnership has been developed over the years with our legislative delegation, and our two legislators this session were fantastic. So these are a few of the things to do, including inviting legislators to tour. I always encourage city council members and interested community members to attend town halls. It's a great way to hear what our legislators are talking about and to raise your hand and raise issues that are important to us. There will be interim hearings in June, in September, and in November, and we will keep you up to date with opportunities to testify. And then the most important thing, and I hit at this at the very beginning, is staying engaged. And City of McMinnville has been very engaged over the years, and that pays off at the end of the day. So I encourage us to all stay engaged. And then there's a team, myself and Corey.
I'm going to ask if there are any questions specifically about the information that Doug has just shared with you. All right. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to go through the list of proposed 27 projects. You'll recognize several of them from last year, and then we've broken up some of the projects to give a bit more context for what those projects entail. So I do want to frame this up. The usual ask is between 1 and 3 million. However, we have a different recommendation for 27, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. Projects should have partial funding, a match or an in-kind, and we found that phased projects work very well. So we can do a phase 1, a phase 2, and in the case of 3rd Street improvement, we've got several phases. These are all opportunities to go back for additional funding. It shows the elected officials that you're able to receive money and move the project forward. We often talk about shovel ready. This is about project readiness. So we're telling our elected officials, if we get the money, we can deliver, execute, and finish the project in a certain time frame. And it depends on how the money comes to us, but generally speaking, in the federal side, it's a 3 to 5+ years. It can be a little bit longer. And on the state side, it can be a 2 to 3 year, could be a little bit longer, but those are generally the way that they're framed up. Our recommendation for your consideration is to explore larger asks in 27. And the rationale for that is you've been successful over the last several years in bringing money home and delivering the project. You have a longer time frame in a long session. It's still a lot of work, and and some things are already baked in by the time the session starts, but you have more time for advocacy for your projects. So it allows you to open up those conversations. And they should have that match, and we recommend at least a 10% match on a project that you're asking for. I also will say that projects don't appear in a bill unless the senator and the representative support those projects. So it's very rare that a project gets in a bill without the support of their representative or their senator. So we go through Rep. Elmer's office, we go through Senator Starr's office, and we keep both offices apprised of the conversation so that nobody's caught off guard, because there are advocates in the building and on the floor. So you'll see there's 10 categories. This just helps your coordination team kind of package up the projects. So these are the 10 that we're going to go through. So the first one is Northeast Gateway. You have great traction. You got Alpine Avenue. You've got Northwest Rubber Site in a redevelopment position. There's an opportunity now to look at the wastewater and stormwater upgrade project. It's highlighted here because this is one of the projects that we're recommending as a priority for 27. In the 3 Mile Lane area, You will recognize the Highway 18 frontage streets. This was a priority project last year. We've moved a different project into a priority position for your consideration. This is for the pump station and conveyance system. This will serve the entire 3 Mile Lane area as well as McMinnville Landing. McMinnville Landing is a well-known asset in the state. Our elected officials know it, our federal representatives know it, the governor knows it. It's on Regional Solutions Priority Project list. You should continue to use that as a talking point as you're moving things forward. So this project will get the doors will be open for you because McMinnville Landing is a known asset. This is a new project, and the reason that you see this on the list, this is wastewater screening facility improvement. This will serve the entire community. It's a critical capacity improvement project. This is a large project. And what you want to do is seed the conversations, particularly with the federal delegation on this project so that they understand what it is and they start to get connected to the story of what this project would mean for the city. And Geoff has said this is well suited for a federal ask. And so this, again, this is its premiere. So you know that it's going to take some time to gain the traction. So we're hopeful that this stays on the list. Transportation safety and accessibility, again, we're bringing forward as a priority project is our lower income neighborhood accessibility phase 1. This is a story about great neighborhoods and making sure that community members who cannot afford because of their income levels, the ability to take care of dramatically ruined sidewalks. I was shocked when I took pictures when I went to that neighborhood. No one can go on those sidewalks. Not a bike, not a person. They are very narrow streets. There's lots of cars, and the sidewalks would be an essential transportation method for the community there. And it's a project that we just feel we've talked about it and talked about it. We want to continue to try to bring money into that project. The Booth Bend Railroad project, it's a pedestrian crossing. This is safe routes to school, tied to safe routes to schools. The Safe Route to Schools program has reduced some funding. We heard at one point it was paused. This is an important project, but now is not the right time to prioritize it until some things get worked out with that. 2 housing projects, you've seen these before, both support housing and multi-use development on 2nd Street and Hill. It's a roundabout and a signalized intersection at Michael Book and Baker. I would say it's important to leave these on too because they're connected to housing, and sometimes that can be a trigger opportunity to pivot a conversation. 3rd Street improvement, this has been a priority for you for several years. It continues to be a priority in this community. We're in phase E. We're at the 30 to 100% design and engineering phase. As you know, there's a signed agreement with ODOT, and that process is underway. So we need to keep that as a priority. There may be additional funding required to complete that, and we want to make sure that that's on the list. The Business Resiliency Program, this is being recommended that you look at this 2 to 3 years before construction. This is how do you support the business community both before, during, and post-construction to make sure that they're healthy and that people can still enjoy downtown during a construction. And then finally, securing construction. That's phase F. And so we need to keep that on the list, as we're hoping to keep that on the list as well. The Park and Recs, so you're going to see there's some several projects that we have here. The first is the park improvements, and as you know, this is to improve the parks and open spaces. Then we have the Parks and Rec project, the Recreation and Aquatic Center. Phase 1 is design and engineering, and then Phase 2 would be construction. We've done the same for the Carnegie Library in Upper City Park. We've created a Phase 1 and a Phase 2, as well as for the Senior Center, the same model. And then finally, this is what I would call a placeholder project, but it's important that it's on the list because of some decisions that may be coming up. What would we do with the vacated community center? It is a historic armory. There would need to be a feasibility study, and there might be resources to bring to bear on that. So the 3 projects that we're proposing you prioritize out of the entire list, we hope that the entire list moves forward, but these would be the 3 that your coordination team and the lobbyist could bring forward for this session. That is the Northeast Gateway wastewater and stormwater upgrade. The rationale for that is that this is currently under contract for design and engineering, and it is a priority for the EVLC to continue to support the redevelopment in the gateway. You have secured city match for this, and a request is 1.5 to complete the project. So this really is kind of that sweet spot project. The numbers play out very well as far as the ask goes. The second one is the 3 Mile Lane area pump station and conveyance system. Again, this is in the rationale here. It's in an adopted 3 Mile Lane area plan. It's in the adopted McMinnville landing master plan. It's in the draft wastewater master plan, and it's a priority for EVLC. It does have some private investment that would come to bear on this, and that's a 2.3 on-site piping and support for this. That was identified in the 3 Mile Lane area master plan. This would be the one that we would suggest that you ask for a bigger amount. There's a number between 5 and 10. It would be important to let your staff, particularly your Public Works Director, weigh in on what that number would be, and that work could happen over the summer to really refine what that ask is. And then, of course, we continue to want to bring money home for the lower income neighborhood accessibility project. It is received well when we talk about it. We do feel like it's something that it resonates with our elected officials. This is in the adopted street improvement neighborhood plan, and it also is in your adopted great neighborhood principles, and I've listed those there. It could have a possible match as you review the tree mitigation program, so there could be a match coming into this. This is an important project that these types of projects need a little extra support, so it'll be easy to tell that story again. So that's where we are on our projects. And I'm going to take a beat here to see if there are any questions about the rationale of what we've proposed, and then we'll take a review of all the projects.
Councilor Chenoweth.
Thank you very much for this presentation. First, I'd like to make a comment on one of them. When I first ran and lost to my person to my left in 2018, I knocked 2/3 of my ward. And as I knocked, I asked the question, what is the #1 priority to you from city government perspective? And I had a notepad and I marked down what they said and kept track. And I was stunned because what came to the top of the list was one of the items on this sheet, and it was the sidewalks. Of all the things, it was a good experience for me to learn that. So I'm very, very glad to see this on here. I'm not sure what neighborhoods this is. I'd like to know what that is. But that's, we can get to that later.
Is it Jandina?
Yeah, it's the Jandina subdivision, otherwise known as the Bird Streets.
Okay. Yeah, that's my neighborhood. So thank you, a double thank you, since it happens to be my neighborhood as well. I guess my question, and I'm probably going to be beating another counselor to this question, but on our recent tours, we heard that the state had put $15 million toward a pool aquatic type facility. So I'm going to guess your rationale for not putting that up at this point into here is that they haven't been talking that as a priority at the legislature. But my question would be, do we keep this stuff in our minds so that if we hear that maybe there really is a really good motivation to get something like that through, that we can step up and flex?
So I'll start the answer, but I think that both Doug and potentially others may weigh in on this. That's why you have a list that is lengthy like this, so that you want to be able to seize the opportunity. And that's one of the reasons that we broke the projects up into phase 1 and phase 2. Last year we had it, and it was all in one as one project. Now you have several ways to look at this. You have the senior center, you have the Carnegie Library in Upper City Park, you have the parks improvements, and you have the recreation and aquatic center. So now you have a larger menu to take advantage of a potential opportunity. And I would go back also, it's about readiness. So you want to make sure that when the elected officials ask you the details about the project, you can answer those details. One would be, is it a secured site? And you need to be able to answer that or explain the process in which you are going to secure the site. So they just want to make sure that if the money's delivered, the project can happen. And so there's some questions that you need to be able to answer, and I'll let Doug talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, Mayor and Councilor, I think Jody's exactly right. Ideally, we want to identify kind of the theme of the session or the priorities of the session, and that changes over time. So we're not quite sure what, we're not really even quite sure how much money is going to be available. Are lottery bonds going to be more available than this year or less available? Are corporate tax revenues going to go up again? Are personal tax revenues going to continue falling? I mean, those are the types of kind of overall questions. But there is a theme that has developed over the last couple sessions, which has been water infrastructure and housing infrastructure. And so I think it's important to have projects on our list that fit into what we think will be the categories the legislature is likely to fund. But also, as Jody said, be able to be nimble ahead of time in case an opportunity arises, either at the state or the federal level.
Oh, sorry, Councilor Peralta.
Thank you. First of all, thank you both for your work for the city. Really appreciate also this presentation. With regard to the priorities, it seems to me that when you have multiple asks at the legislature, it helps if you can have those asks with different committees, because I feel like when you go through one committee and you have 3 asks, they're like, okay, which one do you want? Mm-hmm. And so my question on these 3 that are the top priorities, and I realize we're trying to figure out which one is going to be in the next session a priority for the legislature, I get that, but is there any thought given to, once we make the decision of which handful of these will be the top priorities, of trying to go through multiple requests but hitting different committees with those requests, if that makes sense?
Yeah, Mayor, Councilor, that's a good question. And I guess I would say 2 things. Number one, the decisions about spending seem to have shifted in the last 3 or 4 years. If I went back pre-pandemic, I would say that individual Ways and Means subcommittees would have, a pot of money, and they would get to decide, okay, we get $30 million, and you get $75 million, and we get $100 million, and then they get to divide the money up. What has happened in the last 2 or 3 years is that process of decision-making really has become, I think, centralized. And so instead of it being, and you've seen this in your work in Salem, instead of, every member of the legislature kind of having an equal opportunity to advocate for things, it really is a small group of maybe 4 or 5 legislators who are making almost all the decisions. And it may be just a small group of legislative fiscal office staff, LFO staff, who are making a lot of the decisions. And so I think that the trend has been to you get one overall bite of the apple, regardless of which committee it's in. So I think it's worth considering whether or not other items might fit in a different committee. From a policy committee standpoint, I think you're exactly right. If you've got a policy bill to change a regulation or to make a change in statute, having things in different committees makes a lot of sense. I think that's less true today with fiscal requests.
Thank you.
I would also add that by meeting with other elected officials, it supports Rep. Elmer and Senator Starr's work as well. So what we would often do, if there's a contingent going to Salem for in-person one-on-ones, we build out a calendar of meetings that are beyond Rep. Elmer and Senator Starr. So we're meeting with chairs and co-chairs of a variety of committees because we also want them to know McMinnville, and we want them to understand what we're trying to get done just as a general, it's just as general outreach. You never know where that might lead or the connection. So in the past, what we've had is we've had committee chairs, policy advisor would contact one of your executive staff to seek guidance. And that's the kind of relationship that you want to have. So even though you're directing maybe to a few to get the money across the finish line, you also want to be known as a good partner. And so some of those conversations have been important.
Councilor, I'd follow up on that, this is a really interesting situation. So Representative Rob Noss, who we know, has been the Healthcare Committee chair for a long time and had been on Ways and Means, but he was on the Ways and Means Human Services Subcommittee, dealing just with OHA and DHS type of activities. But I had a good relationship with him. I'm sure you met with him as well. Suddenly, this session, he's the co-chair of the Capital Construction Subcommittee, which is making a decision on all of this.
Wow.
So the fact that we had met with him in the past, even though he wasn't on the appropriate subcommittee, suddenly turned out to be beneficial. So there's so much turnover in the legislature, and there's so many new faces every year, and people are getting juggled on various committees that I echo what Jody said, which is, we have met with people from many, many different committees, which I think plays into what you're talking about, is we need to keep that breadth of contacts wide in case there are opportunities, whether it be on a different committee or whether or not it be someone moving to a committee that's important to us.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council?
Yeah, too.
Councilor Tukalski.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for bringing all of this to us. I do appreciate that. The 2 questions I had were with respect to the recommendations. And you spoke about the pump station on the 3 Mile Lane area. And the question that I have is, the request on this one is a $5 to $10 million request. So there's a $5 million variance in that ask. And then you go down to the next one, the lower income neighborhood, and we're down to the $5 zone. So I have a hard time understanding how we have a $5 million variance on one request, and we're down to the $5 on the next request.
So when we discussed this with the Public Works Director, we talked about, is there a number that we should put in, a single number? So should it be 8 million? And not to speak in front of you, Jeff, but the idea was that there's more work that needs to be done to refine this ask. And so we're just telling you that it could be somewhere between here, but we don't have the exact number yet.
Yeah, just to add a little to that. So say we go forward with just the pump station work, $5 million would cover pretty much that entire project. But if we decide to package the pump station with the sizable amount of the piping, then we can get into that $10 million range. And it's a little bit of how much money are we able to get out of the state? Because if they're willing to do 10 million, it becomes worth it to do the larger project. But if they're only going to do 5, we probably only want to put all the additional administrative accounting and rules and everything on the pump station part and then do the piping separately. So it's a little bit right sizing based on what we think we can get from the state level.
So it allows your team to have flexibility as those conversations occur with the elected officials. So it might be, tell me how much the pump station is, and those kinds of conversations. Tell me how much that is, and I'll do that. So that's a good description.
Also, Jody, if I can add, oftentimes we'll hear from staff of the elected officials who are running the committees to say, you know what, I think you need to, this happened just recently this year, we came in with a request that was lower than the 1.5, and they were like, we think you need to get the Alpine Avenue project up to 1.5 to make it compelling, and after discussion, that's how we submitted it.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yes, you may.
Okay, so the follow-up question I had was with respect to the sidewalks that we had just discussed. And my question is, you had spoke a bit about the southwest area, the bird streets. Those are the ones that are on the list, but I haven't seen the list of the ones that are proposed for repair. My question is, if you cross over into the southeast area, across the tracks on Southeast Story Street and head over into that area of town, there are many areas of the city that don't have any sidewalk at all. So there was no sidewalk to be destroyed because they were never created. It's hard for children and anyone to really navigate that area because you have to walk through the street the entire time. Are we addressing those areas first that don't have a sidewalk? Or are we addressing those areas with sidewalks that have been damaged?
I think the idea was that this was a phase 1 opportunity and to address the Jardina neighborhood, the bird streets, and that as you developed the program to help that neighborhood, that it would expand out from there. And to include community areas that don't have sidewalks, I would look to Heather to
Yeah, so one of the things we hear also from the elected officials is, has there been a process of identifying why this project's important? And so we do have several neighborhoods where we've already identified over the years, prior to me being here, so prior to 2016, these neighborhoods were already identified as what we called street improvement neighborhoods, where the sidewalks were really damaged by the streets. And so we already have that sort of, I always call it booked, but it's booked that the city has made that decision. We've always talked internally that this is a much, much bigger issue than just an isolated neighborhood in McMinnville, and we need to start a program, and that's why our recommendation has always been to have this on a priority list. It hasn't grabbed a lot of traction as we've submitted it to both federal discussions and state discussions. It's not necessarily as compelling maybe as water and wastewater infrastructure for large developments, but yes, there's a lot of need in McMinnville.
I think your other question was just how you came to the 957,375 number.
Oh, that's our engineering number.
Yeah, that one was just the actual estimate when we put it together. But again, similar to what Director Richards said, if they said do 1.5 million, we could probably find another 500,000 and change in sidewalks that could be repaired.
Gotcha. Okay. Councilor Chenoweth? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, for giving me the opportunity again. Just to follow up on that, I would hope this is a beginning point, not an end point. because this is definitely an issue that does stretch across the entire city in different ways, whether it's the 2-foot variance between top of points on the sidewalks in the bird streets and the bottom points, which it literally is about 2 feet variance between top to bottom, or it's where there's no sidewalks at all. It's definitely an issue that needs to be addressed across the city.
I think you're going to find when we bring you the ADA transition plan data that a lot of that's going to show up in there, so we can put together sort of a better planning process in terms of how we approach them. But the goal has always been that this is the start of a longer and larger program over time.
So what we're seeking from you today, Mayor and Council, is a general direction that this list is, that you're comfortable with this full list, and that you're comfortable with the priority projects that we've identified for your consideration. So again, this is a review of the full list. You have the Northeast Gateway, 3 Mile Lane area, the public infrastructure project, transportation, safety and accessibility, housing, 3rd Street improvement, and then you have the parks and recreation, Carnegie Library and Upper City Park, senior center, and public facilities repurposing. So,
Councilor Cunningham?
Yeah, I echo everyone else and thank you for all the work and bringing the money back home. That's greatly appreciated. And I basically agree with the priorities that you've already laid out in the wish list. The one question I had, since we got the kind of the big wastewater update and kind of one of the big projects from there, is the actual upgrading of the wastewater transfer station. Is that either too big of a project, or we're just not ready, like it's not within the time frame that we're talking about?
No, it's in there. It's that large project we were talking about potentially going after federal dollars for. Okay. But frankly, it depends on which projects are going to sell well when you're going after the funding. So if the state gives us a bunch of round funding pegs, the last thing we want to do is go after them with square projects, right? So we might have to pivot, but that's the same idea at the federal level as well.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Chenoweth?
2 quickies. One, we're talking about asks that we're going to be asking directly to our legislature. I assume lottery dollar asks are separate or different. So that's question 1. Question 2 is 3rd Street's not on here because, as a top priority, because we're looking to go Fed. Is that?
well, you're in Phase E, and you need to complete Phase E to, I believe, 90% to get
I thought it was 80.
80% to get the ability to have a cost estimate, and then you can go for funding. I think when we reviewed the build grant process, it is a very intense and robust process that requires a lot of your city staff, as well as additional consultant time to develop some of the materials. So you want to make sure that you've got all the information needed to be able to process that information so you can be successful. And we know that a build grant, it's often not your first attempt, or you should be prepared to do it for a number of years to be able to secure the funding for it.
And so that's why it's not on the legislative state level, because we're looking more federal.
Well, so I'm going to interject just a little bit here, Jody. I think it's not on the list as a priority for 2027 because we'll be in the design process, so it's timeliness, right? But I also want to make sure everybody understands, just because you're bringing federal dollars into a project doesn't mean that's now the only dollars you can go after for that project. So the 3rd Street Improvement Project could be, and we've always talked about this, could be a variety of different funding streams, including state allocations in the future.
Yes.
Could I ask or clarify, respond to Councilor's question, which is this lottery dollars? And That's a good question. That's a really good question, because typically in the past, infrastructure projects have been funded with bonding that comes from lottery revenues to pay back those bonds, but that has changed quite a bit in the last 4 or 5 years, and the legislature has gotten into a habit of providing infrastructure funding through general fund dollars as well. So I think the team's perspective is whatever money is available that the legislature deems appropriate for these projects is fine. There's an advantage to general fund in that there's not this delay of the Department of Treasury having to plan for bonds and then issue bond sales, and then, that's usually an 18 to 24-month process before you get the funding. General fund dollars can turn around very quickly. Whichever it is beneficial to the city.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, I don't know if Doug knows this, but today we did get our notice from DAS about the $1.5 million for Alpine Avenue. It is lottery funds. So we'll be working through them on a process of vetting that project and coming to agreements, but the money won't be available until March of 2027.
Councilor Gary?
Yeah, thank you. I'll, being short on time, be brief. Thanks for all the work. I appreciate, too, the tweaks in the process, whatever they were that led to the outcomes here. I see some of the starting to get more projects at the top of the list that what I see benefit more broad people in the public and the community than the little more niche projects. My only, and appreciate the councilor asking about funding of rec centers to large dollars. So that may surprise no one. That's my #1 top priority. I think that's the only thing we should be talking about. But recognizing this list and reading the funding projects that City Manager Garvin just set out, only recommended tweak I would make or propose or think would round out a 3-part ask better, as I see kind of these are all infrastructure heavy, and maybe diversifying our ask by swapping out one of the top 2 for something from this slide to be a little bit more. I see on that list of projects that were funded more in that park and rec and open space amenities. So be it the senior center or the Carnegie Library improvements or something smaller from Park and Rec if we're not going to push the large rec center forward. Would make a little bit more of a fun 3-part ask, in my opinion, but that's what I think. So.
Any other comments or ideas, recommendations, comments, all of the above? Nope. Nope.
So I know my time is different than your time, but Mayor, we are seeking direction, and if the body wants to change the priorities or add an additional priorities for staff, now would be the time, because the goal would be that we leave this meeting and they can hit the ground running to get ready for the session.
I'm good with the 3 priorities for now. Anybody else? Councilor Smith?
I wouldn't mind adding one to Councilor Geary's point, but I wouldn't want to take any of the 3 we have away either.
Councilor Cunningham?
Yeah, I would agree with both that, but also I think recognizing what we did see out of this last session was a lot of those types of infrastructure projects. So if that's where the hunger is, then I want to feed it.
Great. Okay. If we were to ask for one of these, and I think we need to keep the 3, but if we add something to be considered, if it comes that that's something that they will fund, let's take a look at these Park Rec Carnegie.
From my knowledge of some of those projects that are contained therein, honestly, the senior center, pulling that recommendation out from that MacPac final report is a pretty contained project ready to go, and we even have upped it to $4.5 million to be more all-encompassing, and you catch all of the senior center and some park improvements, including for outdoor pickleball courts, or the Dragon Park or Upper City Park improvements. Those would be two pretty impactful self-contained projects that I think are pretty good to go.
I would, Rick, if we're going to pull one, I would say whatever would fit into a budget of a senior center, for the senior center.
Agreed. For me, I just really want you guys to have your ears open on these projects, because that's really, I don't know which one of them is going to be the best, but what is going to speak to our legislators, if they're going to say, we can get behind this, the emotional pull. I don't know which one works better, working for the kids in Dragon Park or working for the seniors. But whichever one it does, that's what I would.
I hear you. Since this is my last work session with you, I'm going to go out over my skis. There's an enormous opportunity to position the senior center if you name it. So you need to give it a personality, because right now it's senior center. So if you want to give the power of the story, there's an opportunity here. And if you're celebrating our anniversary this year, there might be something that you can draw from there. But the Barbara Roberts Technical Center in Sheridan received money the minute they changed the name. So it's an opportunity for you. And with that, we will take that into consideration. We'll keep, your team will have their eyes and ears open to opportunities, and this list is a great list, and we're well positioned.
Great. Anything else? Are you good with what we gave you then? Jody?
We're done.
Good.
Thank you.
So before you leave, this is your last meeting, and so we would like to recognize that and thank you for all the time that you've put in for legislative and all the other committees that you've helped with, and Third Street Project. We have a little something tonight.
Oh.
It's a leftover taco.
Why they're
Singing telegram. Okay.
Here's a retirement card from all of us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh my gosh. Okay, thank you. I wanted messages
Just a little sweet something.
Thank you. Wow. Happy trails. Wow.
Jody, I would just like to acknowledge the impact you had on the city over your tenure as Director of MDP, your time as Regional Solutions, and then your time in this role. And your impact goes even farther than the city. With what I learned from you as a counselor at the Capitol, I was able to bring some money back for the fire district. And so your impact is spread far and wide, and take that into retirement. And I hope your travel plans work out as well as you have them planned.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll let the attorney get
So Jody, I wanted to share one thing that I've heard a lot over the last couple of, you and I have worked together for 10 years. Sorry. I've heard in the last couple of years from all the consultant teams that we've been working with, who I have a lot of respect for, that they see Jody as one of the best project managers they've ever worked with, and she has that as a statewide reputation. And so we have been so blessed to have you helping us with our projects here after you finished your glorious career at MEDP and with Governor Brown's office. So thank you. Thank you.
Give her a hug. Aw. Thank you, Jody.
Perfect.
You want to? Yeah. All right, I am going to end the work session at 7:05, and we're going to pass out a little cake.
And then Devin got this for you because she said it was your favorite.
It is my
Recording stopped.
Let's pass them out.
I echo what Heather said.
Back and organize, sorry.
Recording in progress.
You're okay. You're fine. Waiting for two counselors. Counselor Gary? Yeah. In your seat. Thank you. And we got Counselor Tukowski. Okay. All right, it's 7:11. I would now like to call the city council meeting to order and request that Claudia give a roll call, please.
Counselor Cunningham?
Here.
Counselor Tukolsky?
Present.
Counselor Chenoweth?
Here.
Counselor Geary?
Good evening.
Council President Peralta?
Here.
And Mayor Morris?
Here. If you're able to stand, please stand for the pledge. Now we have something very special tonight. I'd like to call on Judge Arnold Poole, and he is going to administer the oath to our new Ward 3 counselor, Carson Benner.
Okay, are you ready? And it works.
Yes.
So this is the oath of office. These are extremely ancient. They obviously predate the city, the state, and the country. I did just a little bit of research, and oaths are actually used over 6,000 years ago by Egyptians, Sumerians, and the Hittites. The oath is a bond between you and the people of McMinnville. It's also a public and verbal commitment of your role as a counselor while serving McMinnville. So, if you raise your right hand and repeat after me, I, Carson Benner, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States and the laws of the and the state of Oregon, and that I will, to the best of my ability, perform the duties of the office of counselor of the city of McMinnville during my continuance therein. So help me God. Congratulations, Counselor.
Now, I would like all the council to come down in front of the dais, and we're going to have a full council picture.
And that's yours. And I got to tell you, when they swore me in, both me and the former judge, we screwed up the name of the city. So you did much better. Thank you. You guys don't need me. I'll give you.
All right. So much going on tonight. Oh, yeah, your chair. There you go. So as we all know, I don't do proclamations. That's one thing I decided not to do when I became mayor, just due to time and staff. But there are some that are required. Actually, this has been the one that's been required every year. And it is in order to keep our designation as a Tree City USA. It's part of the regulation for that. So it is that time of year, and I'm going to read a proclamation for it. Whereas in 1872, Julius Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska and is now observed throughout the United States and world. And whereas trees provided countless benefits to our community, including improving air and water quality, reducing stormwater runoff, conserving energy, providing wildlife habitat, and enhancing property values and the overall quality of life. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of our business areas, and beautify our community, and whereas the planting and care of trees strengthens community pride, promotes environmental stewardship, and ensures a greener future for generations to come. Whereas the City of McMinnville is celebrating its 29th year as a certified Tree City USA, as recognized by the Arbor Day Foundation in honor of its commitment to effective urban forest management. Now, therefore, I, Kim Morris, Mayor of the City of McMinnville, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 24th, 2026 as Arbor Day in the City of McMinnville, and I urge all residents to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands and to plant trees that will benefit present and future generations. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the City of McMinnville to be affixed this 14th day of April, 2026. Thank you. All right. Now it is time for community comments. I want to make sure I do. All right. Any interested audience members are invited to provide comments, and any comment provided that requires some type of follow-up will be assigned to a staff member. Anyone may speak on any topic other than a matter in litigation, a land use decision that is or will be in front of the City Council, or a matter scheduled for public hearing at some future date. Comments will be limited to 4 minutes per person for a total of 32 minutes. If you are on Zoom and wish to speak, please use the raise your hand feature or chat feature and send a chat to the City Recorder team. You will need to provide your contact information prior to being promoted to speak. Once your turn is up, we will announce your name and unmute your mic. Once your turn is up. Please announce your name and city that you live in for the record, and we will start with anybody that's signed up already. Claudia, do we have anyone?
Yes, before we start, I do want to state for the record that we received a letter from Marie Frugia that I emailed to council, and it will be made part of the amended packet posted tomorrow. First, we have Gabrielle Humley.
Hello. Welcome. So if it's green, is it green?
Hello.
There you go.
City Council members, my name is Gabrielle Humley. I've lived in Yamhill County my whole life and moved back to McMinnville last year. I know a few of you personally, and my husband knows a few of you as well. And I've come to know others through following council meetings online, and Councilmember Benner, I look forward to hearing from you as well. Thank you for your commitment to public service and the volunteering you do on our city's behalf. As a pragmatist, I understand and can appreciate not making any proclamations or official acknowledgments of events, but I do want to make sure an acknowledgement of April as Child Abuse Prevention Month and Sexual Assault Awareness Month happens publicly. Recently, the individual who groomed me had his court case dismissed. While I respect the complexity of the legal system, the outcome has been difficult, not only for me, but for others who have experienced harm and are left feeling unheard. Many survivors never report at all, and moments like these can reinforce silence. In public health, the first step of a campaign is always awareness. And sometimes the cynical part of me wonders if everyone is now aware and we just need to get to the next step already. Even small, visible actions like community acknowledgements or participating in awareness campaigns can help signal support, reduce stigma, and encourage conversations that lead to change. They remind survivors that they are not alone and that their community cares. I recognize that many policy decisions happen at the state or federal level, but local leadership plays an important role in shaping community culture and priorities. As you continue your work, I urge you to consider how decisions impact those who are most vulnerable, especially children and survivors of abuse. As a specific action, I would invite you to connect with Henderson House and sign the Start by Believing pledge. They're open the same hours as the courthouse. They mirror hours there. This is a simple but meaningful way to demonstrate support for survivors and to reinforce a culture where people feel safe coming forward. I also want to express appreciation for the organizations in our community doing this work every day, including Juliet's House, court-appointed special advocates, the district attorney's office, Henderson House, and local law enforcement. Their efforts make a meaningful difference, and I hope we can continue to support and amplify their work together. Thank you.
Thank you very much for speaking.
That's everyone that signed up.
Is there anyone else that wants to sign up? Nope. All right, thank you, Claudia. Now we have a presentation on the Oregon Air Show presentation. I'd like to call Oregon Air Show President Eric Corning and McMinnville Area Chamber of Commerce President and CEO John Olson to present. Welcome, gentlemen. Oh, yes. Welcome. I didn't get your name on here. I apologize. Okay, great. That's great. Oh, thank you. Great. Yes.
Eric, can I have you speak closer into your mics?
Is it great?
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, the first part was a thank you. So again, just wanted to also call out to the police chief, Cordwood. Thank you. You were our main contact in here working with the city before John came on board. So you got to be court manager, police chief, and all-around event person. I just want to say thanks to you. You were fantastic to work with, in addition to Chief Reed over at the McMinnville Fire District. It was an all-around amazing experience. So I also appreciate the mayor and a handful of council members who came down to see what we were doing and be able to kind of talk about this and look into the future. So one of those conversations, we also asked John and the team at Visit McMinnville to come down and be able to look at how can we do a better job of being able to connect the air show and this community in really meaningful ways. And so I'd just like to hand it off to John here to be able to talk about that process.
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor and councilors and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening now that I turned my microphone
You almost don't need it.
I know. So I'm here this evening alongside with Eric and the Oregon International Air Show to speak to something I believe that is incredibly important. Not just the success of the air show itself, but the strength and intention of its partnership with the McMinnville community. First, I want to acknowledge Eric's leadership. As a new executive director, he has already demonstrated a clear and genuine commitment to McMinnville. He's not just organizing an event here, he's investing in this community. His participation this year in Leadership MAC is more than symbolic. He is showing up and he's taking the time to understand our businesses, our people, and our values. And that level of engagement matters. It sets the tone for what this partnership can become. And I want to be equally clear, that commitment is being matched on our side as well. The Oregon International Air Show is more than a weekend event. It is a powerful economic engine for McMinnville. This is an event that brings in tens of thousands of visitors into our community, visitors who stay at our hotels, dine in our restaurants, shop in our stores, and visit the Evergreen Aviation Museum and support local businesses across our community. And that's meaningful, that's measurable, and it's important. But what makes this moment different and what excites me the most is that we're not content with just the indirect benefits. We're being more intentional. This year, we are working to ensure that McMinnville businesses are not just benefiting from the air show, but they're actively a part of it. That means expanding opportunities for local restaurants, food trucks, wineries, distilleries, and breweries to be featured on site. It means creating space for the McMinnville employers to be visible, connecting with attendees, recruiting talent, and telling the story of opportunity in our community. It means ensuring that our local nonprofits are present, engaged, and able to connect with thousands of people in a meaningful way. And just as importantly, it means investing in our future workforce. Through the Air Show's Charitable Foundation, local students are gaining access to scholarships, hands-on learning, and real exposure to careers in aviation and aerospace. And that's not just a benefit, that is a long-term investment in McMinnville. This is about moving from the Air Show comes to McMinnville to the Air Show is McMinnville. And we're not just stopping there. We're also looking at how we can expand the experience beyond the runway, exploring evening events, additional attractions, and more opportunities to extend the visitor experience. We're working closely with our friends and partners at Visit McMinnville, the McMinnville Downtown Association, to intentionally connect visitors into our downtown, to our tasting rooms, to our shops, and the full experience of our community. Because the goal is simple. When people come for the air show, they don't just attend an event, they experience McMinnville. And when they leave, they don't just remember the planes, they remember the place. That's how we maximize impact. That's how we support our small businesses, and that's how we turn a great event into a lasting economic and community asset. And so tonight, I want to thank Eric and the Oregon International Air Show for leaning into this partnership, for their openness, for their collaboration, for their commitment to doing this the right way. And I want to assure the council that the chamber is fully engaged in making sure that this continues to grow in a way that reflects and benefits the McMinnville community, because we have a real opportunity here, not just to host something exciting, but to build something that truly belongs to this community. Thank you for your time.
Great. I'll come down and accept the. Be right back.
Thank you. Thank you, John. That was spectacular. This is a Chamber of Commerce kind of day. So, a couple quick things about this year. It is one of the years we really look forward to here in McMinnville is when the Blue Angels come to town. It's the time that we expect to be able to sell out the event site and be able to have this really spectacular world-class jet team in town to be able to do what they're going to do. We also will have a Marine Corps Osprey. We'll have Bill Barak, my predecessor, and this who you known from so many years. He's bringing his jet car to McMinnville, and we'll be able to run it up and down the runway at about 350 miles an hour. There's also, last year, we partnered with a local group here at McMinnville Airport that has a STOL airplanes. They're very small, short takeoff and landing airplanes. We'll have them back again as this is truly local air show performances here. Just also want to say thanks to John. He's been a superstar in being able to help me connect with people in McMinnville in really meaningful ways, rather than, we're going to wait for this next thing to be able to meet them. John's like, let's introduce, let's keep this thing moving. So I appreciate that. And the Leadership MAC program, which I have attended now, I think 2 or 3 of those, and it's been spectacular to really get to know people in town. We just did one on nonprofits, and so Henderson House and Juliet House and whatnot, like those have been, I understand what that means and what that is and how important those are to the community. couple other things, and again, part of this is John's connections and some other folks. We've changed our merchandise for our staff gear as well as volunteer T-shirts and whatnot to Textile Graphics, which is here in McMinnville. John Pascal, the airport manager, again, more of these connections helped me connect with some drone companies to be able to see if they might be able to fly in the air show or be able to have their drones on display, and even connecting us with Weyerhaeuser, who has a brand new presence down at the airport with their firefighting helicopters. Jennifer at Gray's Craze is part of the Leadership MAC, and we connected, and I'm like, can we go do something that is just a prototype where we're going to go take one of our small hospitality areas. We're going to have an opportunity. You can buy tickets and be able to be taught about making the charcuterie boards, and then you get to eat it while you're there at the air show and be able to have a nice front row seat. And I'm like, in future years, it'd be great to be able to have local restaurants, which I know staffing is hard, especially in the summertime. But maybe we'll do something that's more like a tasting menu for 20, and be able to pick for some restaurants that will be able to bring down a tasting menu on one of the days. But again, having some meaningful connection into this, and also being able to give some more visibility from our end of things out to people of these are these restaurants that are here. So if you didn't want to do the tasting menu, you can still get a reservation and actually go to the restaurant. And so there's a new AC hotel that we're really excited about that's right across from the museum, and our relationship with Visit McMinnville is one of the next ones up of like, how can we do a better job partnering? I know that there's a 150th anniversary of McMinnville, John and I have talked about, and again, if there's ways that we can help support that, we'd love to know and be part of that. Last little bit, I just want to announce 2027. We actually know the event dates the air show will be here. It'll be August 27th through 29th. So it'll be the weekend before Labor Day. It'll have the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds. And then we are also exploring doing a night show on Friday night. And what that looks like is that the airplanes start flying about 6:30 p.m. until sunset. And then we'll have another set of airplanes that actually have fireworks that come off their wingtips and lights on those airplanes. It has a drone show. It could have a fireworks show. It could have a wall of fire. It could have a lot of things to it. We are actually producing this in Hillsborough coming up this next month, and we call the event called Kaboom. So there's a lot of moving parts for us to get there, not including the logistics of like, can we do this here, and what are the issues and whatnot there, but also the funding and being able to make sure that we have an opportunity to be able to meet with folks in this community and other communities to be able to say, is this the right opportunity for you to be a title sponsor of something? It's, again, it costs more money to be able to go do this, but it's a really spectacular piece and a really unusual thing for an air show to be able to go see all these planes fly at sunset and then at night. So again, the community connections here have been fantastic. My hope is that we not only be able to do this with the business community, but the nonprofit community, as well as the schools and whatnot, and that there's lots of opportunities to be able to have performances of all different kinds. I grew up as a band kid, and I can imagine of like, can we go bring like the Army band down from JBLM to be able to come play with the McMinnville High School band, or we have an amalgamation of bands since it's summertime or something like that. But again, my hope is to be able to do more in the future that's not only just the business end of things, but kind of a community building piece as well. So thank you. Appreciate your support.
Wow, thank you for all of that. You guys, it's amazing, all the ideas. So looking forward to this year's show.
Thank you.
And thank you, John, for connecting in with our community. And nice to meet you, Andrea. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very cool. I feel like we should clap. Okay, thank you. Okay, now we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Does any council request anything to be removed from the consent agenda and heard at its regular place on the agenda? Councilor Cunningham?
Yeah, I'd like to remove D, please. Resolution 2026-21, yeah.
Oh, D is in David.
D is in David, yes. Thank you.
Okay, so Councilor Cunningham has requested that resolution number 2026-21 be removed and heard on its own. Do I have any other comments? Nope. Okay, so do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda minus D, as in David?
So moved.
So I have a motion from Counselor Gary. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Counselor Cunningham. Any further discussion? Claudia?
Counselor Cunningham?
Aye.
Counselor Tukolsky?
Aye.
Counselor Chenoweth?
Aye.
Counselor Benner?
Aye.
Yay, your
Counselor
first one.
Geary?
Aye.
Council President Peralta?
Yes.
The consent agenda minus item D has passed unanimously by a vote of 6-0.
It's okay. Okay, so now we are going to consider resolution number 2026-21, a resolution approving code compliance liens on properties to recover unpaid abatements and civil penalty citations. Counselor Cunningham?
Yeah, I just am remembering back to some folks that had some graffiti on their property. I know that I believe Chief worked out a deal with, is it Rhoda Paint and Sherwin-Williams, that people can get paint for that. But I didn't know if there was still a penalty that could potentially go to a lien for someone who is basically vandalized.
Are you thinking that one of these fits that bill, or is that just a question?
On the pie chart, it has vandalization as one of them, and so I just wanted a little bit more clarity on that.
Yeah. So graffiti is considered a property nuisance. We do enforce it through the property nuisance code. So we contact the property owner to let them know that we've gotten a complaint about graffiti and that they're required to clean it up. We have, over the years, had arrangements with stores in the community to help with providing supplies. And we've also organized many volunteer efforts to help with cleaning up the graffiti on properties. We have never cited a property owner for graffiti. None of the liens that you see in here tonight represent a graffiti nuisance. We achieve about, I would say, 90 to 95% voluntary compliance in the code enforcement program. So what you see happening here are the ones that aren't in voluntary compliance, and we have to come in with, more sticks than carrots to try to get to compliance. So we're either abating the property ourselves, hiring a vendor to abate the property. We will then charge the property owner for that abatement. If they ignore the invoicing for that, it comes to you as a lien. And those are the ones that you see that are sort of non-traditional numbers on the list. And then we also have the capacity to write citations if a property owner chooses not to comply as well with different nuisances that aren't as easy to abate. And so we try to use that as a tool to get them into voluntary compliance. Interestingly enough, some of the one of the larger components of our citations right now is barking dogs. We're getting a lot of complaints about barking, people leaving their dogs outside all day who bark all day. And we do have a nuisance code for that. And so obviously working with property owners, we want them to be able to keep their dogs, but we also have to enforce the code. So we do go into citations on some properties for that.
And then to answer your question, it was that one of the officers arranged with Sherwin-Williams, I believe, and it was, you had to file a police report in regards to it and then take it into the store. I'm not sure if anybody's done that recently, if it's still active or not.
There's actually 4 businesses in the city that participate in the program for graffiti abatement. So when somebody makes a graffiti report to the PD, either in person or they can actually do it online, we provide them with the information about how to go to one of the participating businesses, present either a business card or an email from the department, and then the participating businesses will sell them the supplies to clean up or paint over the graffiti at cost.
Perfect.
And we get a lot of graffiti complaints online through code enforcement, and we've been working with the police department and providing cards when we go out to the properties to let them know.
Great. That answer your question? Okay. So do I have a motion to consider resolution number 2026-21, a resolution approving code compliance liens on properties to recover unpaid abatements and civil penalty citations?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Councillor Cunningham and a second from Councillor Tukolsky. Do I have any further discussion? Claudia?
Councillor Cunningham?
Aye.
Councillor Tukolsky?
Aye.
Councillor Chenoweth?
Aye.
Councillor Benner?
Aye.
Councillor Geary?
Aye.
Council President Peralta?
Yes.
Resolution 2026-21 passes unanimously by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you, Claudia. Okay, so now we have two resolutions that we read under one staff report, but will be voted on separately. We have to consider resolution number 2026-24, a resolution directing staff to pursue the sale of city-owned air easements affecting certain properties between Northwest 25th Street and Tice Park. And consider resolution number 2026-04, a resolution authorizing the city manager to release air easements affecting certain properties adjacent to Tice Park along Northwest 25th Street. I'd like to call on City Attorney David Leitenberg to present.
Thank you, Mayor. And to start with the end rather than the beginning, when we get to the end of this, it will be one resolution or the other, unless it's neither. But I wanted you to have that in your minds as we move forward. This came before you early this year, our second meeting this year, so Councillor Benner, this might be a little bit new unless you've looked back. What we have here is between Northwest 25th Street and Tice Park, as you can see in the staff report and in the image on the screens. Long ago, when Tice Park was sold to the city, it was sold along with options to the adjacent property owners on this row to purchase at a nominal amount the properties, the 100 feet of property behind their properties as a buffer between themselves and Tice Park. When we brought this staff report to you in January, we indicated that we believed it was a buffer at the time. Further research has turned over that was indeed the understanding at the time. This was meant to be a buffer between residences and the park. Now, the way that was achieved is that the city kept and owns air easements over these rear 100 feet, and that prevents those back lots in most of these cases from being buildable. Above 10 feet, the city does not allow anything to be built. When we brought this in January, we brought it with the request from the adjacent property owners to consider the fact that these easements might be released by the city. The direction at that time was we'd like to see more information about potential sale of these easements, and that's what this report reflects. We've gone to get an appraisal, and that information is included as an exhibit to this staff report. The conclusions of the appraisal are that the underlying property values, real market values of the underlying properties increase somewhere between $40,000 and $85,000, reflected individually in tables in your report. There are some distinctions, unique situations in some of these properties. As you can see, we talked previously about how one property has built already in this easement, and you can see the third property from the left, the third property from the west, has joined the two lots, whereas in every other one of these properties, those are still separate lots. They would become buildable lots upon release of the air easement. Those buildable lots, as separate lots, could hold single-family homes or whatever else is allowed in the R1 zone. There's additional information in your staff reports with regard to how the county tax assessor has looked at these properties and the potential change in value. And feel free to refer to that. Some of the remaining questions are with regard to how these become buildable, what steps would need to be taken. I would like to point out to you the error called out in the appraisal. That is a conclusion that none of these properties could be reached by driveways. That's a mistake, and Heather can give you the details about that, but the majority of these could be reached by driveways, could be buildable lots under our code. Aside from questions, that's all I have to present to you. I would love to entertain any thoughts or questions you might have. The end here would be the resolution for council to authorize sale. If you go that direction, the city still needs to hold public hearings with regard to the sale of these properties. This would be in front of you once again, but that would set staff to pursue that direction.
And if I can just clarify one thing, the lots when the air easement is removed from the lots, they are all legally buildable at that time. They are the right zone. They're part of a subdivision. They're the right size for the R1 zone. They would be considered buildable. We've had them off our buildable lands inventory because of this air easement that's been on them. But once the air easement is removed, they would be considered buildable.
So with that, if they're buildable, what about, I mean, you said there were driveways, but I drove over there and reading that they needed 15 feet. The accessibility didn't look necessarily like it met that requirement. And so are they truly buildable without an easement?
Yes, so they would still be buildable. So the appraiser's report actually has a diagram in it that shows, so you can put the access easement in the setback. The appraiser's report actually has a diagram that shows the amount of footage that you have between the property line and the built environment for all the lots. And most of them would be able to actually have an access easement to the back lot for them. We are right now, because of the land supply issues in McMinnville, actually working on a lot of properties that are in situations like this, which are not what you would consider traditional, mainstream, residential lots, but ones that are being served with these access easements towards the back. We're actually seeing a lot of missing middle housing coming in on these properties and then subdivided into even smaller lots.
So looking at that on page 38, so it says 18 feet. Is that 18 feet on each property, or is that 18 feet between? I just want to make sure.
My understanding is that's 18 feet from the property line to the built environment on the property.
Okay, I question that, but it sure didn't look like it to me. And when you use Google Earth and you do all that, it didn't feel like that. It did on a couple, that there is a driveway there, but overall, I think that might be a little bit of a grab.
The other way so when we consider them buildable, the other way they could be buildable is someone could buy the properties and access it from the side street there as well with an alley. There's all sorts of ways to build these lots. And so I just wanted to share with you, legally, per our code, once the air easement is removed, it's considered a buildable lot. It's the right size, there's opportunities to develop it, and so it would be working through that process.
So when you say, let me just clarify something too. When you say access from an alley, so I know that there's the access to the west.
Yeah.
It's kind of grass access right now. Is that where that alley would go, or where?
It could
kind
come
of
off of that.
explain to me what you're thinking about an alley.
It could come off that street, an alley. If someone purchased two of the lots right there that are towards the west, the two northern ones towards the west, they could put an alley or an access off that side street to serve both those lots.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, I'm not putting pen to paper here tonight to show you all the different ways it could be considered buildable. I'm just saying once the air easement is what's making it unbuildable, and once the air easement is removed, it's considered buildable.
I understand that, but I do appreciate you answering the questions that I asked. Councilor Chenoweth?
Thank you, Mayor. Looking across the bottom, because I don't do really well with directions on maps, roads never seem to align to my view of west, east, north, south. So bottom right, 115 lot. When looking through the packet, all of the houses had a street width or driveway width capable for every single lot, but that one. Is it because it's greater than the minimum requirement and that's why it wasn't specified there, so we're safe, we don't need to worry about it? Or why was there not one indicated for 115?
You mean in the appraiser's report?
Correct. Where it gave the width from the side over. Only that lot did not have that. Now, there's two possible explanations. One, there's no room. The other is that there's actually more than the code requirement to build the street, so it wasn't necessary to point out that it was tight. I could go either way as a possible reason for it wasn't there.
And I don't want to surmise. So the appraiser and I went back and forth on this a couple of times because he did get our code wrong, and so I wanted to point that out in the staff report. He felt comfortable with his appraisal, and that's what he submitted to the city. So I don't want to surmise why he left one out or didn't leave it out. I haven't gone into our GIS system to measure that.
So Kim, maybe I could ask you, since you drove by and I did not, the part that makes it hard to tell is the row of trees along the right side of that property. Is that, when you drove by, was there space there? Does the house go all the way to the edge?
I think, is that the one on the corner?
Yeah.
I think it is the one on the corner. And so it goes to the street, to Baker.
Okay, that still doesn't
If
really.
that is the one that, it's hard to tell on this, but knowing who lives in these other houses, let me look.
The one, Mayor, the one that you're referring to on the corner is shown in the bottom right area in the yellow rectangle.
There's still another house there.
Because we have multiple pages. Which page are you on?
Oh, I'm on Zillow.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's assume that it's probably because the space was wide enough. The second observation I'd like to make, I was looking this up, and it looks like these are all, if I'm understanding square footage correctly, just shy of half-acre partitions. Is that?
No, so all of the, so there's two legal lots comprised of the ownership. So the properties that have the street frontage with the residential dwellings own the properties that are behind them, north of them. And so those are two legal lots. The northern lots are all qualify as an R1 zoned lot, which has a minimum lot size of 9,000 square feet. So if you look at the assessor's report, it talks about the size of it. They migrate between 9,000 and 10,000 square feet, more or less.
So the 20,000 referenced is both of them put together?
Yes. So if someone wanted to, if someone chose to sell them as two legal lots. So we had, someone approached us when this was first being dialogued several years ago, who wanted to sell the two lots independently. So they were looking at as investment properties to sell the two lots independently, two buildable lots. Most recently, we've had a couple of properties go into trust, I believe, because there's been family transactions, and they've been exploring how to put it on the market. There's been discussions of ADUs on the second northern lot. That's actually not how we would describe that, because that second lot is a separate lot, so it would have its own primary dwelling unit, and it could have up to 4 dwelling units in our code right now.
So roughly where I'm trying to get to is the size of these lots. They're about 10,000 square foot where the air easements are located, give or take.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
They're very similar to most of our subdivisions in town, the older subdivisions of having 10,000 square foot lots, 9 to 10,000 square feet.
Okay, thank you.
So, Heather, if we,
Just still trying.
Banner,
Yeah.
you have a question?
I'm trying to figure out how to get recognized.
It's hard on this curve.
Yeah. Heather, I'm confused by the fact that there's a large dwelling or a large structure where there is supposed to be an air easement.
Yes, we're all confused by that. And I would say that predates my time and most of the time of the people at the Community Development Center. I have spoken with Katie Land about it before previously. She doesn't remember how that got approved.
Thank you.
May I follow up on that for a moment?
Go ahead.
So Director Richards, you say she doesn't remember how it was approved. Was it actually approved?
There's the other interesting part is we don't save our permits from that far back. So there is a process in which you can purge your permitting system, and so we don't have a permit for it, but that doesn't mean it wasn't permitted.
Thank you.
Councilor Gary?
Yeah, in the scenario where the lot is joined, so 209, is that one lot encumbered?
They did do a property line adjustment for that lot.
And so that lot is now, all that lot is encumbered by the air easement? Or that got rid of the air easement?
The air easement is relative to the footprint of the lot that it originally sat on. So it would be that.
So it still exists where the lot was, but now there's no lot independent?
Yes.
Specific to the rear 100 feet, like the initial.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So question, if we release the air easements, does that just automatically release them for all, and does that increase their property taxes? Or do they need to request?
I can answer the first question. The first question is the question that we put in front of you in January. It would be up to you. You have the authority to release them all at once. You also have the authority to let them be released by request or to let them released based on notice and unless somebody objects, or upon sale, or any number of permutations here.
Okay.
And once it is released, it would increase the property taxes.
Okay, thank you.
May I make a comment?
Councilor Tokolski?
So is this a time where we should provide opinion?
Discussion?
Discussion, yeah, okay. So I would hesitate to unilaterally and just preemptively release the air easements for anyone that lives there, because at that point we're changing their property value and we're also changing their tax structure without their permission. And there may be some people that want to continue as they have for as long as they've lived in this area to have that space, but I would say deal with the air easement because they have no plans to do it otherwise. So I wouldn't want to see this just unilaterally pushed out to where everyone's air easement is released and everyone's, I would say, tax burdened at that point. But there's also two other conditions that I see here. There's one condition where someone has joined the two lots. I think that's 209. They've already made that choice, and so that's, again, they now have a 0.44 acre lot instead of a 10,000 square foot lot. So they have increased their tax burden already, but they still haven't released that air easement that I know of. So that's one thing. But I would also like to address the structure at 131, because that one obviously has enjoyed the, I would say, their facility in the back for at least 20 years that I can see on Google Maps, and they've not had a release of the air easement, so it would be appropriate for them to be in the condition where they are accepting that tax burden, since they accepted it when they built it. So I would.
Yeah, I believe just for what I know, just to clarify a little up here, and again, it's just not fact, just what I've heard, is that was built by the prior owner, just so you know, not who currently lives there. And they believe that they did have a permit at the time, just to.
But the air, okay, thank you. The air easement still exists, though.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Gary.
Yeah, so I would just share my comment on what I think the proposed path should be. I think we recognize the value of the air easements and the potential of those lots, but not to the full freight. I think the only time they're going to be, that value is going to be actualized is if those are developed or are transacted with the potential develop, and I think that's good development. And so I think it's good for the city if those develop. So I think, even just setting up a nominal, we'll sell the air easement for $5,000 and it's yours, go to town. And I would propose because if it's developed, it's also, as I said last time, a sort of a property tax customer for life. That the proceeds would go to knocking off the real estate, the appraisal we had, and then all other proceeds from the sale of those air easements should go directly to Tice Park development and ensuring that that park stays a good, vibrant, healthy park, which would be an asset to those. And then the only caveat to that, while it sounds punitive, would be potentially altering the $5,000 structure to a higher amount for the 131 already built lot, but that would just be my suggestion.
Did you have some?
In general, I kind of agree with the framework that Councilor, I've got it on? Okay. In general, I agree with the framework that Councilor Geary suggested. I wouldn't favor dinging the current property owner at 131 over and above what anybody else is going to be paying, just because if they weren't responsible for the development, which may have been permitted, I don't see why we would penalize them. But otherwise, I thought good suggestions.
Councilor Chenoweth?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a different reason for not being in favor of penalizing 131. I don't think they're going to buy the easement if we increase it too high, because they don't need to. They've already developed the land. So, it's kind of a moot discussion point from my perspective. The rest of the framework I somewhat agree with. I think 5,000 is awful cheap. I think if somebody comes in to buy or comes in and wants to pay for that air easement, their intent is to develop that land, and they're going to be making some pretty good profit given the price that was originally that land was sold for and what it's now going to be worth. So I'm not sure I would be in favor of a $5,000 price. But outside of that, I agree with the framework.
I personally wouldn't want to go any higher than 5,000 if charging them at all. I think that's an assumption that they're going to build. I think a lot of times they just want to shop. I really question the access to the back of those anyway. So my thought is to just release them and know that we have property tax coming our way. But, yep, Councilor Peralta.
Question, Mayor. When you say just release them, do you have concerns about that? Do you mean at their option?
At their request.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any fees? I guess I have a question. Is there, besides the appraisal, is there any fees to the city at the request of a release of the air easement? Just looking at cost recovery is the only thing.
I don't know if there would be cost to record our release. I would imagine it's nominal.
Okay. So, Councilor Tukalski?
Yeah, this may, Scott. All right, I apologize for that. The question that I have is on Northwest 25th, it intersects with Birch. It's right over on the left-hand side, to the left of 245. And in that area, that's the red, I'll call it the red triangle there on the top left is where the land becomes county land. In between that blue line and the red line, there's 22 feet on the right side of the road there. Is it possible that there could be a Northwest 26th Street, but on the north side of these lots that contain the air easement? Is that something that could occur?
No. Oh, sorry.
So we have looked at that a couple of times. It would need to go, two things would happen. It would either come out of the parkland, if I'm understanding you correctly, it's going on the north side of the lots.
Yeah.
So it would either come out of the Tice Parkland, and that was contemplated at one point in time. If you look at the Tice master plan documents, at one point in time, they contemplated a road through there and decided not to do it. or it would need to come out of the land associated with the lots that would then make those lots non-conforming for the R1 zone, so they would need to be rezoned to R2. I don't know what the number would be to get it to the right number, but there has been those dialogues with some property owners.
So it would be a requirement that each one of these lots has an easement to allow access, because we're not headed to the north side with the street.
Yes, it would be an access easement, but I mean, honestly, we're approving a lot of access easements right now.
Okay, thank you.
For partitions.
Thanks.
Councilor Cunningham.
Yeah, I tend to agree with the mayor, because when I look at page 38, it says specifically none of the measurements is near the 32-foot threshold described in the above paragraphs of what are needed for those minimum driveways. And then when you go to the very bottom of page 40, and it talks after without air easements, unless I'm misunderstanding, but it's basically saying no rear access with existing front house, accessory dwelling, no, not with home on same lot, and then cottage cluster, yes, with front single family residence demo. So I'm guessing that unless they went for a street easement along the backside, like Councilor Chikolsky just mentioned, I don't see there being access to that. So I don't see there being a whole lot of value in lifting or selling, sorry, the air easement at that point. So I think I'd be more for just lifting the air easements upon request.
So Councilor Cunningham, if I can just point out, that's the erroneous language that's in the appraisal report that we were contesting. That actually isn't what our code requires for an access easement. So for an access easement, we require 15 feet. It can be in the setback.
Councilor Peralta.
So two questions. First would be for Councilor Cunningham, if that kind of changes his perspective on things. And then I guess I'm curious in terms of polling the board. I haven't heard anybody disagree with the framework of Councilor Geary, with the caveat some people feel like we shouldn't require people to pay versus not. Councilor Chenoweth thinks it should be a little bit higher. But I'm curious on the board if we could just kind of poll the sense of whether we should just give the air easement away or charge something. And I think 5,000 has at least a couple of potential votes, so that we can just move the discussion forward.
Councilor Peralta, before we vote, can I ask another question?
Yes.
Is there an option for having it available, and when the owner decides to move forward with removing that easement, that it triggers a fee? Or is it sort of, you have to do it, we have to push that on them?
It would be the fee at their request. They would request the easement.
They could continue to own the property for...
That is one thing we could state, which I think is what the majority of us are feeling.
Yes.
On that.
If I might on that, could I,
If I can just clarify, just in response to Councilor Benner's question, yeah, I think making it so that it's opt-in, and then the question is, do we charge for it or not charge, is my thinking.
If we charge, I feel minimal.
May I ask a question?
Councilor Tukolsky.
So Director Richards, when these were originally, I guess, purchased by the landowners with the air easement, what was the agreement that, could you remind me of the agreement? I think we talked about it last time. That
I think it's...
There was an original agreement that someone had agreed to whilst purchasing this thing that had conditions. What were those conditions?
Yes, there were a handful of agreements, moving pieces at the same time. The underlying agreement was the sale of Tice Park to the city. That included a series of options reflected by those back properties up there. Those options allowed each of the adjacent property owners to buy 100 feet at a set price from the city after that sale, if they all agreed to do it. and they did, with the understanding that that piece would be a buffer then. That sale from the city to those property owners was accompanied by the recording of the air easement. So all of those things were moving pieces at that time.
And what was that price?
We actually also have the price in the staff report.
$1,500 or something?
They were to be sold
$2,000.
at what amounted to $8,000 an acre, which we calculate came to somewhere between $1,750 and $2,000 per parcel.
So Mayor, if I might, for me, that's one of two considerations to my point about it probably needs to be more than 5,000. One is they paid virtually nothing for this chunk of land, even in the day that they got it. It was well below market value. Two, when I look at the appraisal report, which is the value that they're going to gain based on the appraiser's concept, what the work they did, they're averaging between, well, not averaging, it's between $40,000 and $80,000 per lot is the expressed gain that they're going to get if they buy off that easement. Just by buying off the easement. So when you combine those two pieces of information, a very small initial purchase price to a rather substantial property value gain by buying off the easement, I don't think that it's, A, I think we need to be charging something for that. B, I love putting it to the park. And C, I still say it should be more than 5,000.
Councilor Peralta, you want to go back to your question?
No, I was just, can we just poll the whole?
Yep. So
What are we asking?
let's do a general question poll as to who's in favor of allowing the release upon request. And then we'll talk about money.
Okay.
So you're asking yes or no to just release it?
Yeah, just let's one step at a time.
Okay.
So we would all be good if somebody wanted to release it, that we would release it. But we aren't saying how yet.
So
Yes.
yeah, I'm in favor of that.
Okay. Okay. One step down. Okay. So now, do we feel there should be a charge for that or not a charge for that? And
I agree
Councilor
there
Benner?
should be a charge.
You do?
I agree there should be a charge.
Okay. Give me an idea what frame you're at. Or do you want to pass on that?
Pass on that.
Since you're new, I'll let you do that. Don't get used to being
I think
passed.
that Councilor Chanowitz's comments about the value of it, and having a low enough number that they do something with it and exercise it because we need more housing.
Okay, Councilor Tukalski?
Upon request, I do believe that there should be a charge. And just using the online calculators, $2,000 in 1978 is worth $9,870 today. So I guess maybe the difference between that, $26 and $1978. So it's
So you're saying approximately $9,000?
approximately, yeah.
Okay.
$9,000, sure, in general.
Councilor Geary, you still at 5?
Yes, charge, yes, 5-ish to Tice Park if it sells.
Councilor Peralta?
Yeah, I'm at the same spot.
You have 5? Okay. Councilor Chenoweth?
Yes, charge 10% of appraised gain. To explain why, or where that's, sorry, Zach, I apologize for that, did it again. I don't think every lot is of the same value, and the appraisal shows that it's not of the same value. So a flat across-the-board price is not fair to the property owners. It's not equitable, I think is the term we like to use. So I would say 10% of proposed appraised gain.
So then we're going to go appraised gain if they do it today based on this, or they do it later?
Based on
we
this.
have to-
10% based on this appraisal report, 10% gain.
Councilor Cunningham?
I concur with that. I like 10%, because if we set a price today and somebody doesn't do it for another 20 years, that could be quite a bit different, so.
No, he said based on this right here.
Oh, based on that?
Yeah, so it's going to be, otherwise, who's going to, then you're making somebody pay for an appraisal. I mean.
Yeah. No. Then I'll stick with what Councilor Chenoweth said.
Still the 10%?
Yeah.
And then I have a question for finance on regards to Councilor Gary's idea of making a separate pot for Tice Park. Is that realistic? I mean, yes, it can be done, but accounting-wise?
Oh, absolutely. That's
you'd be okay with that?
Easily done.
Okay. Okay, so we have some ideas between, basically between 5,000 and 9,000 and nothing. So.
Sounds like Carson's the swing group.
Yep. So.
I like the idea of the 10% of today's assessed value.
Okay, so we have these out here.
I can get behind that. I appreciate the councilor's championing of diversity at all levels. And I would just say, I was trying to, it was more arbitrary at 5,000, but I think low, flat, just to spur on development, to keep those costs low, just to make sure that it's cheap and affordable to develop in the city. But yeah, I'll support the 10% too.
Councilor Benner, did you say you did agree or did not agree?
Did agree.
Did agree. Okay, I just want to clarify that. Okay, so we have Councilor Benner, we have Councilor Gary, we have Councilor Peralta, and we have Councilor Chenoweth and Cunningham kind of leaning that way. All right, so any further discussion or a motion or any other clarifications?
May I, Mayor?
Yes, you may.
I think we see the direction that this is going.
Yes.
To ask a couple of clarifying questions for that idea, it seems like that works as long as we set it up with regard to an amount of time from whatever resolution accomplishes that until some date in the future, right? At some point, these numbers become less and less meaningful. Might I request or suggest that after, say, 5 years, if somebody then comes in wanting us to sell an air easement, that they have to secure a new appraisal?
Comments?
Yes, a good friendly amendment.
Okay. And then with regard to property 131, it has been pointed out that they have little incentive to pursue the sale. There was some talk about treating them separately. Is there any talk about treating them separately?
Councilor Chenoweth?
I don't think it'd be equitable for us to treat them separately. And I know that means they're probably not going to do anything, but I kind of feel like the urban legend is that permits were pulled at the time that this was built. And given that, it kind of puts part of this onus back on us. So I feel like isolating it separately is probably not the way to go. Thinking this through as I'm saying this, and we want to encourage them to get rid of that air easement. I think is probably the end goal. So I get what you're asking. I don't know that we're going to ever get them to.
If they, Councilor Peralta?
So on that property, if they wanted to go if that rear building falls down and they haven't done anything with the air easement, would then that be a non-conforming use and they would have to come in and get the air easement at that point?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Yeah, so I think that we should treat them the same.
Question.
Councilor Cunningham?
Would there be the possibility of putting into this that stipulating if any of these properties sell in the future, that the air easement is a part of that they have to pay at that point in time, then that way 131 would get picked up in that at that point in time?
That's something we would have to consult outside for. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth it either.
Mayor.
Counselor Benner?
So if the property doesn't exercise their easement, the sale of their easement, it sells, the assessed value is still what it was today, and so the new owner would have it encumbered as it is today? Thank you.
Which has happened. But some of these have sold with the air easement. Any other,
Yeah,
just a second, we're not done.
if I may, I'm having a challenge with 131, and I'm not trying to single them out or pick on them, but they've gone through with a violation of the air easement, whether they knew it or not.
We don't know that. I'm sorry, but
Well, so the burden of proof is on the city, right? And we can't prove that we didn't give them a permit. So we have to assume that they're operating in good faith and they obtained a permit.
Right.
But the air easement still stood at the time. Do we know if it was removed by monetary compensation or if it was just forgotten about?
I believe in we don't know, and we think that it just was an error.
Okay, so again, the burden of proof on the city, and we can't prove otherwise, so we have to just say it is what it is at this point.
Correct.
Okay. Then I also support not treating it any differently than anything else.
And just to clarify, the air easement does still exist on that property. So it has not been removed. The air easement has not been removed
Well,
on 131.
I would argue that it has because we can't prove that we didn't give them a permit to build
Right, but
above that.
if they came in today to build a second shop, or, the other way that people could create housing on these lots is to do a property line adjustment like the one and build more units on the property, we wouldn't allow that because the air easement exists.
Right, and it's recorded, it exists.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, Counselor Carey?
Do we have enough information here to move and approve the framework, or based on what framework we've suggested, do you need to bring something back, or have you kind of penciled?
What you have discussed here allows me to put something more concrete together. This was going to have to come back either way if we were selling because it needs a public hearing. That will allow me to put some of the details into the document that follows that public hearing. And I think I understand the consensus of where that's going to go right now. 10% of this appraised change in value for 5 years.
Can we go 10 years?
That's up to you.
I just don't, that's such a short window.
That's fine, I don't think. I'm not going to fight you on that.
Sure. 7.
I'll counter with 7.
Anything that saves people money. And I hate to have them go get an appraisal when there's.
I just don't want to put more costs on an appraisal that's unnecessary in a short window like that.
I think the argument would be that it spurns those developments sooner on a shorter time horizon. You know?
Are we doing 5?
5.
What are we doing?
5.
5 what?
I don't have your vote, I have your voice.
Oh, so, but you're going to bring this back, is what I heard, right?
There was a lot of unmiked conversation there. It seemed as
We're okay with 5, I think.
you ended up at 5. Yes, then I know what to bring back to you. We will bring this back with a public hearing and a document for execution.
Thank you.
Sweet. If you pass Resolution 2026-24.
Oh, so I still have to make a motion.
Sorry.
So would that motion be passing Resolution 2026-24, resolution directing staff to pursue the sale of city-owned air easements affecting certain properties between Northwest 25th Street and Tice Park, per the conversation we had?
Correct.
I have a motion from Counselor Chenoweth.
Seconded.
Second from Counselor Gary. Any further discussion? Claudia?
Counselor Cunningham?
Aye.
Counselor Tukolsky?
Aye.
Counselor Chenoweth?
Aye.
Counselor Benner?
Aye.
Counselor Geary?
Aye.
Council President Peralta?
Yes.
Resolution number 2026-24 passes unanimously by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you all.
Okay. Now we're going to consider the first reading with a possible second reading of ordinance 5176. Does any counselor need to declare an actual or potential conflict of interest, recuse themselves regarding the ordinance? And this is an ordinance awarding a lease and operating contract for fixed-base operator services with Trimble Aviation at the McMinnville Municipal Airport. Do I have any potential conflicts? Okay, hearing none, we will now consider the matter of ordinance 5176. And does any counselor object to having the ordinance read by title only? Okay, I'd like to call on City Attorney David Lightberg.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the first reading of ordinance number 5176, an ordinance awarding a lease and operating contract for fixed-base operator services with Trimble Aviation at the McMinnville Municipal Airport.
All right, and I'd like to call on Jeff Hunsaker, our Public Works Director, to present.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Even though apparently it's airport night, our airport manager decided to be in Phoenix, so I'm going to do my best here.
Okay.
So the existing FBO contract expires at the end of June. In January, we put out an RFP for proposals, and we received 3 proposals, and the selection committee unanimously selected Trimble Aviation. They've been at the airport for the last 20 years, have been part of the airport for all that time and done some great work. And even though they haven't been in FBO before, their proposal was the most complete, and we have high confidence that they're going to be able to do the work. And so John gave me a quick bit of lease highlights that I can share with you all. So this is a 30-year lease with an option for a 10-year extension. The reason it's a little longer is because they're proposing some development out there, and that allows them time to amortize on that investment. The monthly lease revenue is going to be double the existing or the expiring contract with flat rate for 5 years and 3% increase after that. We're also going to be adding overnight aircraft parking and tie-down fees that are planned to be split 50-50 between the FBO and the city. The fuel flowage fees are expected to increase by at least double. Trimble Aviation plans to invest $350,000 or potentially up to $750,000, depending on if we get a Connect Oregon grant, to build a new permanent general aviation terminal, and then partner with the city to rehab the city's existing 2 hangars out there that are World War II era. That new lease also provides up to a 50% reimbursement of that investment over 15 years, not to exceed $175,000, and that reimbursement will be in the form of lease credits. At the end of the lease termination, the city will own all improvements. Trimble's already begun talking to a local commercial contractor to be able to put that in a short time frame. And this contract, unlike the past contract, doesn't have an airport manager component to it. In the past, Potcake served as the airport manager, but with the creation of the airport manager role that John Pascal is in, that's no longer part of the contract, and we're also going to be separating out a lot of the airport maintenance support work into a separate good and services contract in the future. That's all the information I had to share from John.
Any questions from any counselors? No? Is the contract in here? I'm sitting here, I've read it a couple times.
It is not in here, and that's a city attorney direction on that. And if you want reasoning why, I suggest asking him.
I generally don't like to include contracts in packets. You can pass them to the satisfaction of staff. If that's something that you really feel like you need to be involved in the details in, that's something that you could decide and we could bring to you.
It's just interesting to authorize a contract that we haven't read. That's all. That's there where.
Mayor?
Yes.
The duration seems really long. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, so again, the 30 years, a lot of that, there's been back and forth between Trimble and our airport manager, and a lot of that really has to do with the the building of the airport terminal work that they're doing. It's a pretty sizable investment, and we want them to be able to get their money's work. And we went back and forth on, is that reasonable? And since we are looking for more development at the airport, we felt that it was in the city's best interest to go with the longer lease to get that injection of development out at the airport.
Are there opportunities to terminate that you're comfortable with?
Yes, there's multiple opportunities to terminate, both by default or various other reasons. We have to then, if it's not by default, there's essentially a clause that says the city would have to purchase that investment at that point.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yep. Councilor Tukolsky.
if I could lend a little bit of insight into that, my time on the airport commission has taught me that the airport is it's a long-term game. And in order to recoup the costs of whatever these, whichever individual is investing in the buildings and the infrastructure, that 30 years is a pretty common duration, which was also surprising to me at the beginning of it. So I've learned why, and I think it's appropriate. So.
Anyone else? Do I have a motion?
I have one other comment.
Oh, Councilor Tukolsky.
Yeah, I just wanted to say with my experience with Trimble Aviation, I've found that they're a good partner, and they've brought a lot to the airport, and they're highly invested in everything that's going on out there, and they've been very invested and very active in the creation of the future of the airport with a new airport plan. And so I think they're an excellent partner, and I think we're in good hands with that crew out there, so I wanted to put that plug in.
Councilor Chenoweth.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment, just for the record. I think all of us on this council agree. We view the airport as being an underutilized asset. So our hopes would be for Trimble and in partnership with the city and the manager we have out there to really begin to develop that asset moving forward.
Great, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 5176.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilor Cunningham. A second, was that Councilor Benner?
It was.
Okay. Any further discussion? Claudia?
Councilor Cunningham?
Aye.
Councilor Tukolsky?
Aye.
Councilor Chenoweth?
Aye.
Councilor Benner?
Aye.
Councilor Geary?
Aye.
Council President Peralta?
Yes.
Ordinance number 5176 passes on its first reading unanimously.
Okay. So now we have, we have to go through it again. Sorry. Go ahead. Attorney David Leckberg for a second reading.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the second reading of ordinance number 5176, an ordinance awarding a lease and operating contract for fixed-based operator services with Trimble Aviation at the McMinnville Municipal Airport.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilor Chenoweth.
Second.
Second from Councilor Tukolsky. Any further discussion? Claudia?
Councilor Cunningham?
Aye.
Councilor Tukolsky?
Aye.
Councilor Chenoweth?
Aye.
Councilor Benner?
Aye.
Councilor Geary?
Aye.
Council President Peralta?
Yes.
Ordinance number 5176 is adopted unanimously by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you. Now we're going to move on to consider the first reading with a possible second reading of ordinance 5177, an ordinance authorizing a supplemental lease agreement with the Federal Aviation Administration at the McMinnville Municipal Airport. All right, and this one I'm going to, does any counselor need to declare an actual or potential conflict of interest or recuse themselves regarding this ordinance? Okay, we'll now consider the matter of ordinance 5177. Does any counselor object to having the ordinance read by title only? Okay, I would like to call on Attorney David Leckberg.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the first reading of ordinance number 5177, an ordinance authorizing a supplemental lease agreement with the Federal Aviation Administration at the McMinnville Municipal Airport.
Okay, and Jeff, I think it's back to you.
Yep, this one's pretty easy. The FAA leases a small amount of office space in the same building that Oregon State Police is in right now. It's about 616 square feet. They keep some equipment out there. That lease expired back in September of 2025. We are looking to extend that lease another 10 years, backdating back to that 2025 amount. It's pretty simple. We just are looking for approval to extend that lease.
Any discussion? Councilor Tukalski, did you?
No, I was going to propose a motion.
Okay.
The mayor pointed out to me today that there's not a lot of cost recovery. It's not a very big lease. The dollar amount, is it pretty consistent with rents in the community? Or?
I know airports are less, but can you explain why?
Yeah, the airport thing kind of throws it off because of the requirements for FAA usage and everything else. I can get into all the specifics, but it is lower than what you would see for a normal office space in the area because it's connected to the airport and this is a aviation use. The idea is to encourage aviation-specific development in and around airports.
Okay. Any further discussion? Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I so motion that we accept ordinance number 5177, authorizing the city manager to execute the lease amendment.
Second.
So I have a motion from Councilor Tukalski, a second from Councilor Cunningham. Any further discussion? Claudia?
Councilor Cunningham?
Aye.
Councilor Tukalski?
Aye.
Councilor Chenoweth?
Aye.
Councilor Benner?
Aye.
Councilor Geary?
Aye.
Council President Peralta?
Yes.
Ordinance number 5177 passes on its first reading unanimously.
Since it passed unanimously, we're going to go on to a second reading. David Lightberg.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the second reading of ordinance number 5177, an ordinance authorizing a supplemental lease agreement with the Federal Aviation Administration at the McMinnville Municipal Airport.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion from Councilor Geary,
Second.
second from Councilor Tukalski. Any further discussion? Claudia?
Councilor Cunningham?
Aye.
Councilor Tukalski?
Aye.
Councilor Chenoweth?
Aye.
Councilor Benner?
Aye.
Councilor Geary?
Aye.
Council President Peralta?
Yes.
Ordinance number 5177 is adopted by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you. And Trimbles are in the audience, correct? Sorry, I didn't note that after we did your portion. Congratulations. All right, we're going to move on to advice and information items, reports from counselors on committee and board assignments, and also department heads. And we'll do that first and then do the Park and Rec. Adam, do you want to do it that way? Okay, so first we'll do reports, and then we're going to have a recap of Park and Rec tours. I would like to start Finance Director Katie Henry.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I'll just swallow the microphone for you all here. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
So in finance, we're literally going cross-eyed over the budget book and trying to get that ready for all of you. We know you wanted to have it for a little bit longer than you have in the past times, and we are actively sword fighting with the new software to try to get it to play nice in the sandbox. So I promise we will get there and you will have a budget book. We just aren't quite there yet. Other than that, we have very good news on the municipal court side. We finally have an implementer, and we start implementation next Tuesday. So we are finally going to be able to do the implementation of the new court software.
That's great news. Good. Director Richards, do you have anything?
Yes, just a couple of things. Wanted to share with you, we currently have 3 vacancies in the Community Development Department. I'm happy to say we're going to start doing some interviews over the next 2 weeks. So we'll be interviewing for our planning analyst position and our code enforcement position over the next 2 weeks. We received 90 applications for the planning analyst position and 50 applications for the code enforcement position. Typically, you see a lot of people who are applying that may not meet the criteria of the actual job description, but in this case, there were actually a lot in both of those batches that met the qualifications of the job criteria. So it illustrated to me what's happening in the job market today, right now. But we'll be going through those applications, conducting interviews, and hope to have someone in place by the time we start the new fiscal year. I also wanted to share with you that we have issued 3 building permits for the West Side development. The West Side development is the mixed-use development on the 6 acres by the corner of Baker Creek Road and Hill Road. The 3 building permits that we have issued are for the multi-family structures there, and then we are also in review right now for the mixed-use structures, which would be commercial ground floor and multi-family on top. So that project's moving forward. You should start seeing some construction out there pretty soon.
Great, thank you. Attorney David Lightberg, do you have anything to share?
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing from the legal department tonight.
City Manager Adam Garvin.
Thank you, Mayor. Had a busy couple weeks. The Governor's Office Prosperity Council Director was in Carlton with city managers meeting around challenges that we face within the region. So attended that meeting. Attended a meeting around GIS software that is widely used in the county. It's not used by the county or by us specifically, but it was a one-year pilot program with SEDCOR, and so attended that to further understand how that's been beneficial for some cities and conversations around them wanting to continue that. And they wanted to engage the county and the city on if we're interested in participating, since we haven't been. So still more to come on that. And then the Park and Rec Director recruitment closed on the 12th, and so I'll be working with HR Director Hedges on going through all the vast applicants we had for that and coming back to you guys with more on that. But initially it looks like we had a strong response, so, but I haven't read through those yet. And other than that, I'll save the Park and Rec stuff until after we're done.
Good. So Councilor Benner has not been given any committees yet. I'm looking at the committees, and at the next council meeting, I'll have those assigned. You may get moved a little bit. But do you want to take this opportunity? Do you have anything that you want to say?
I'm going to lead with no comment.
Okay. Councilor Tukalski.
Yeah, so my assignments, the airport and all the thunder was stolen earlier, so I have nothing to add to that.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sad, yeah.
Councilor Gary.
I'm in between meetings on my liaison on MUREC, and although we're meeting tomorrow, and visit McMinnville, and we'll be talking about the rest of the stuff I was working on here in a little bit, as I was able to join on all those Park and Rec facility tours. So that's my report.
Great. So my 2-week report is I attended and spoke at the grand opening of Stratus Village. Reminder that this is a Housing Authority of Yamhill County project that's opening 175 doors. It's a partner project with the Tribes of Grand Round, and also there's some benefit to YCAP. Attended multiple Chamber of Commerce events, greeters, multiple greeters, business after hours at Evergreen Events, who's been a great partner. Also ribbon cutting at a new primary care facility, One Peak Medical. We have a need for primary care, so it was good to see that open. Claudia did a lot of work, and Adam on the city county dinner, and thank you everyone that attended. I thought it was an amazing event. Again, the aquatic rec tours that we're going to talk about next. Attended a legislative forum at Stillwater with Rep. Elmer, Rep. Sharp, and Senator Starr. Was able to attend a swearing in, which I'm probably going to take his thunder, of Officer Justin James, who's returning to McMinnville. Had a monthly meeting with Commissioner Johnston where we talked about multiple things, including their transitional housing project. I was invited to join Lafayette Mayor Hillary Malcolmson as she hosted a pizza party for her elementary level If I Were Mayor winners. 3 students collaborated together on a poster made up of individual essays, and they asked the 2 of us a lot of questions, a lot of great questions. The McMinnville winners, I have Sydney Hermans, who is the winner at the elementary level, and Giselle Martins is the winner at the middle school level, and will be presenting their gifts as well as attending their schools in the next couple weeks. I attended a casual McMinnville leadership hour, had a meeting with, lastly, I guess, Superintendent Fura, Mayor Malcolmson, and I sponsored a tree for CASA on 3rd Street as part of our We Care About Kids campaign, so that was pretty nice to be able to do that. Lastly, I did meet with YCAP, Representative Laverne Pitts from YCAP. We had coffee. She provided some really good information. Starting April 27th, the Navigation Center will be having extended hours, so they will now be open from 9 to 12 and 1 to 4 daily through the week, so that is good news for our homeless people or people that need some assistance. They can go there. They're also going to be providing a little bit more in regards to rapid testing and vaccines there. Turnkey, which is the housing facility out by Lowe's, got remodeled, and the electrical and the plumbing got redone on the west end and in the center of the building, and they're moving people back into those units. So that's 21 units, and then they will be working on the east side still, which will add another 21. They were able to add a food pantry, so there's fresh food on site. Now, vegetables, eggs, they never had milk, and so they have milk now, and they have a laundry room, which is really a nice option for the people there. That's my report.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm between meetings, so no report.
March 25th, Southwest Area Plan met. We had our 3rd meeting, giving our final input toward a preliminary preferred concept, which will be coming before a joint session of the Planning Commission and us on April 22nd. Tentatively, that's what it's scheduled for. April 1st, I got to go to the city-county dinner, and I even won a door prize, which I never do. So it was a great event. Thank you for those that put that on. April 2nd, Mid-Willamette Area Commission on Transportation met in Silverton. I actually drove out there and saw their 3-year-old council chambers. Saw some things in there that I really like, so if we ever go to redo this front area, I'd love to have some discussions about some of the stuff that I saw that I think would make this a better environment. MWACT, for those who don't know, is a tri-county, Marion, Polk, Yamhill County Area Commission on Transportation. We've been working on a SIP, which is a capital improvement plan that we're putting up to the OTC. That included 3 priority projects and 14 secondary projects. Of note to McMinnville, on the priority project, the Newburgh-Dundee bypass was listed. On the secondary projects, we got 3 different items. Finishing the asphalting of the rest of 99 West, they went through up to McDonald Lane originally and stopped, so completing from there to the rest of the city. The frontage roads for Highway 18 over off 3 Mile Lane, and then that first interchange that's the entrance into McMinnville on that side are all on those top 14 or secondary 14 list. April 3rd, I did the Redmond Aquatic Center trip. Beautiful ride up, gorgeous. $49 million aquatic center. That they put another $5 million to do some external stuff as well. April 7th, did the Lake Oswego, Woodburn, Chehalem Valley Aquatic Centers. I guess I won't go into the details since it sounds like we're going to talk about that later. April 7th, was able to attend the Legislative Town Hall short session wrap-up with Bruce Starr, Lucette Elmer, and Anna Scharf. April 8th, the MEVLC met. Patty Herzog from MEDP presented on the upcoming Opportunity Zones 2.0. McMinnville already has an Opportunity Zone that we did ourselves, Opportunity Zone 1.0, and we're just getting ready for that secondary opportunity that was in the big, beautiful bill. For those who don't know, opportunity zones are economically distressed census tracts designated by state governors and certified by the U.S. Treasury, designed to stimulate economic development and job creation through tax breaks and incentives at the federal level. And on April 9th, I met with Courtney Ferrua, superintendent of McMinnville Public Schools, to discuss various different things, but most importantly, she will be joining us at the MEVLC. And that's my report.
I was
Councilor Cunningham, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I was in between my committee assignments as well, but did get to tag along to all the different things that we did over the last few weeks, so thank you.
City Recorder Claudia Cisneros.
For the council. Thank you.
Scott Burke, Information Systems.
We'll just be running to keep up with Director Henry and the court software implementation, so exciting stuff.
Jeff Humsicker, Public Works.
Yeah, a few things tonight. We put out a notice of intent to award for our TSP last week, and with Kittleson and Associates. Director Richards and I are meeting with Kittleson tomorrow for our first scoping meeting. The schedule that they've put together is we should be bringing a contract to the council for approval about June 23rd, so we can get going July 1st on that project. As part of our succession planning and public works, there was some additional money for training this year, and we have 3 staff right now at leadership training. Liz Fazar, our park maintenance supervisor, Kevin Wood, our utilities program manager and engineering, and Eric Grimstead, our new wastewater services manager, are all taking leadership training right now, and that's something that we put into the budget for next year because we want to keep growing that leadership as we're having turnover here in our public works department. At the plant, wastewater services is getting ready for the summer permits, swapping oxidation basins, getting the tertiary clarifiers online. And then in the office, we are getting prepared to come back to you in June with another work session on the wastewater master plan to discuss the preliminary rates and SDCs. Our street maintenance team has been starting to demo street sweepers. That was something that's in the proposed budget, so we want to be ahead on that. So if that is approved, we can get going on the street sweeping being done in-house sooner rather than later in the beginning of the fiscal year. And as Jody mentioned during the work session, we got the IGA signed with ODOT for the 3rd Street design project. One of the questions you all asked me to bring back information on was whether or not we could spend our dollars first with ODOT and then switch over to the other dollars so we can get some information early on about the cost of the federalization. Unfortunately, we can't parse out our dollars separate from the other dollars. ODOT treats them all as project dollars, so the only way we could spend our dollars first would be giving them more dollars. And so unless I hear a big appetite for that, we are moving forward with them just spending the project dollars as needed, and we'll bring back that information on the cost estimate as we get it. Our project manager, or one of our co-project managers, Jeff Good and Valerie Greenway with ODOT met earlier this week. I haven't been able to catch up with them, but we're moving forward on that.
Right. Police Chief Cordwood.
It's been a busy couple of weeks over at the PD. As you mentioned earlier, Mayor, we swore in Officer Justin James last week on the 8th. Appreciate you and City Manager Garvin attending the swearing in for Justin James. He rejoins MPD after a brief hiatus. He moved to the southeast and was a police officer in South Carolina for a moment, but has come back and rejoined us, so we hope to have him up and operational here very quickly. Laura Fitzgerald started today as our new management support position person. Excited to have that position filled again and looking forward to getting her up and running in short order. Officer Jeffrey Freeman graduates DPSST on Friday the 24th. The department currently still pushing forward very hard with our hiring efforts. We have 2 officers in the background phase of the hiring process. We have 1 officer who's passed the background and moved into the psych medical phase of the hiring process, and we have 7 applicants pending first round interviews at the moment. So we're real excited with the progress we're making towards filling positions. 2 staff over the last couple of weeks were promoted to the rank of sergeant. We had originally intended to introduce them to you tonight. Unfortunately, a training class got in the way, so we hope to introduce the 2 new sergeants to you at the next meeting. Last, YCOM Executive Board met last week on the 7th and discussed revisions to the 190 membership agreement. Those discussions continue as revisions to the agreement that expired this year are completed.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to talk about Park and Rec facility tour recap. Did you want to lead that, Adam?
Yeah, before we kick that off, I was going to give you guys a communications update. We've had some really good success with our social media through organic reach. In the last 30 days, we've had a little less than 88,000 views, which is up about 229%. 78% of those were non-followers. We did pick up about 69 new followers in the last 30 days to our page. The top 5 contents on that were hiring posts that got shared on some Portland job boards that had over 37,000 views and 47 shares. In honor of the moon expedition, that post garnered almost 21,000 views. And last month, the City of Lafayette and McMinnville School District collaboration post around the If I Was Mayor for a Day had over 6,400 views in the first 24 hours and 101 likes, which is about a 200% increase than anything else we had seen posted in that period of time. So Noel's also working with different city departments on highlighting ways the city supports youth health, wellness, and connectivity in the community. And she's been leaning into collaborating with other department managers and staff on making sure we're doing a better job storytelling on our social media. And so we'll see further organic growth through that. And then she's leading the effort of corralling all the ideas around the 150th. And so we'll continue to move forward with that and hopefully have a finalized logo here very shortly.
That's all wonderful.
So now to Park and Rec. I wanted to extend some time this evening for you guys to recap and deliberate, as well as for those that didn't go on the tour, hear among your fellow counselors without violating Oregon Public Meeting Law or creating a serial meeting from our April 3rd tour in Redmond, and then the April 8th tour that was done between Lake Oswego, Woodburn, and Chehalem. So I would open that up. This is just a point in the meeting to take notes, and I just want to hopefully get some direction from you guys of what you liked, what you didn't like. From that January work session, there seemed to be some interest of bringing that bond amount down from that $98.5 million down to, a sub $80 million number. And so wanted to also touch base on that, while also understanding as we wait and inflation happens, you have less and less buying power. So that $98.5 million in November of 25 would roughly buy you $93.5 million in November of a 26 bond passage when you account for construction inflation as you design and eventually go out for a build. So I'll open it up with that, and it looks like Councilor Chenoweth is perplexed and has a question.
Okay, go ahead and ask your question first.
I'm really perplexed by the comment of serial meeting laws. What are you referring to?
If you guys were to have a quorum at these tours and deliberate amongst this body about something you wanted to take action on, you potentially could have violated serial meeting law.
Right, but we didn't.
No, 100%.
Okay.
That's why we have this tonight, and it wasn't, you guys all went out to lunch after these tours and deliberated and then come into this meeting with a preconceived notion.
Can you remind me, you're getting some recommendations, estimates, looking at the aquatic center we have now? When is that information supposed to be back?
So we had a tour with Penn's Construction, Opsis Architecture, and then Ken Ballard's looking at some operating models as well. But Penn should have information back on the existing aquatic center. I hope to be able to present that at the April 28th meeting. Okay. In a similar format, we'll just have a discussion, and I'll get that emailed out to you guys when I get it. It'll be close to that meeting, so it won't be in the initial packet. But with the timing, we need to continue to move this forward if you guys still want to target a November 26th date. And then also working with Pence and Opsis and Ken Ballard on what a facility would look like in that sub $80 million mark, and then take all this context into it of what you guys liked from facilities, what you didn't like. From the dry side, you know, the rec, the gyms, the workout rooms, and then from the wet side, from the comp pool, the rec pool, and that kind of programming.
All right, so are you taking notes on all the things that we said, or are you going to go back and listen to this later?
Make sure you're using your mics, because we're going to get to it later.
Okay, I'm going to start to my right. Councilor Cunningham, do you want to share?
Yeah, I got to go to 3 of the tours. No, two in the end. Damn it. In any case, I was totally impressed with Redmond. You know, obviously that's the kind of the peak of what money can buy right now. It definitely convinced me that we needed to right size, but again, I understand inflation, so I'm not 100% sure where that would actually be at right now. I'm guessing it's north of 70 million easily for that building today out at Redmond. I also really appreciated going to Newburgh and going to Chehalem Aquatic Center, and the thing that was clear at Redmond but was spoken about at Chehalem was that the dry side actually is what drives the building revenue. That really they looked at it as an integral part of being able to offer everything that they do was having a high quality dry side. And so that was really interesting to me when there's so much focus on the aquatic side and huge amount of cost with it, that in order to make it pencil, you really do need a high quality dry side. And that's where it's kind of made me think a little bit more towards brand new or a extreme remodel of the existing facility to really upgrade the dry side facilities.
Thank you. Councilor Chenoweth?
All right, as you heard from my report, I've been all over the state for the last 2 weeks. I made all the tours. I did find it interesting. I'm going to try to, my focus was mostly on monetarily, not on programming. I'm not a huge user of these facilities, so that's not really my strength. I found it interesting that 2 of the 4 pools are subsidized in some way by golf courses. Lake Oswego has an executive level course. It's currently generating about $600,000 a year in revenue. Chehalem Valley has a course that's currently generating about $200,000 in revenue. So I found that to be interesting anecdotal information. The Redmond pool is about it's $49 million for the pool that building structures that they're doing, with $5 million more for outdoor stuff that they're going to have in place for a total of $54 million. Lake Oswego was $46 million. They got the school district to kick in 16 of that bond because of their usage. I also thought that was a very interesting, something we should be considering. Chehalem, I didn't really pencil down the cost because they opened in 2018, so trying to bring some relevance to this seemed pointless. Redmond isn't opened yet, and Lake Oswego just opened earlier this year or late last year. I didn't know which. I was very grateful to whoever added Woodburn to our list. That was incredibly eye-opening for me. They're $22 million to completely redo their pool, which includes pooling and deck. It includes extensive damage to the external structure. Every metal beam is rusted out. Building on extra rooms for the community. There was 3 different rooms that they're adding on to the facility they didn't have before. And all of that penciled out to $22 million. Now it's only 1 pool. We have 2. But I found that very revelatory. I still contend that our best path is down that road at this time. I do understand one of the things that the contractor at Woodburn brought to my attention was that if you have old piping, meaning copper, I think he was talking about. I got kind of confused. But whatever the piping was at issue, it was the piping we have. It's going to have to be replaced, whereas Woodburn didn't have to have that piping being replaced. So I do understand there'll be some more cost comparative that we're not seeing. That being said, there may be other areas where there was increase in costs there that we won't have in our building. So I don't know how that all pencils out. The other thing that I took away from all of these, heard it from I think 2 of 3, if not 3 of 3 of the new ones, is that we really want to have, and somebody can get the model of what this is correctly terminology is, but where you have a representative that's doing all of the negotiating for us that understands this stuff. There's a specific terminology. Make sure.
Owner's rep.
Yeah, yep.
Owner's rep.
Yeah, my takeaway was we definitely need an owner's rep. Let's see, what else in my notes that I wanted to make sure I said? Yeah, looking forward to hearing the cost stuff that, Adam, you're gathering. That'll help give us a clear picture in terms of aquatic center potential repairs, and also I think you were going to get us an appraisal on the community center as well, and I'm looking forward to that information.
I'll bring that on the 28th. We do have that.
Yeah. Okay. And so I was able to go on all the tours as well. I think that looking at the pool, I think we should not go anything less than what we currently have now, 25 meter by 25 yard, 8-lane pool plus the second pool to have additional warm-up lanes plus rec space in it. I think we need to plan for meets in order, that is an income generator for us. And then we have the swim team that's very active, the school team. I know that Adam has made, I hope this is okay, mentioned a discussion with Linfield, and if we can meet anything that might be able to work with them and NCAA, that would be great. I liked the idea. They had it at a couple locations, the bulkhead, which was allowed to change it from the 25 meters to the 25 yard, that gave it flexibility to move the pool in different sizes. Saunas were a topic. Operators at locations said they weren't thrilled to have it, but citizens liked it, but it was also known to be broken a lot, costly, and a place for bad behavior. Ability to separate the recreational pools, so a wall and doors between the 2 pool areas was nice, so that you could have your competitions and still have recreation available as well, instead of having them in one space where you have to close down recreation. I also think that the recreation items in the pool need to be somewhat limited. They need to be good, but not take up a large amount of pool. We've seen that. I know in Chehalem, they have the vortex area that took up a lot of space and wasn't necessarily something that, again, the director thought it was the best use. I want to make sure that we have enough storage for all the items that we have, both park and rec area and aquatic, and enough office space. I think all the facilities had the directors and swim coach all in these really small, almost closets, and they wish they had more space. I think the gym that we put in there needs to be a really nice workout room. I like a separate hallway to the pool. That's one thing in our pool that really bothers me, is that to get to the pool, you have to go through the locker rooms. And I like that there is a separate hallway, so if you're not swimming and you need to go out there, you don't have to go through the locker area. Also, make a note that no keys for the lockers. You're going to bring your own lock or rent one, but not everybody loses the keys. I think we need to have better understanding of Park and Rec's programming, just to really know exactly what we need room size wise. I know we need the gym, if we can do a walkie pass somewhere. But they offer a lot more things, I think, at Park and Rec now, where they draw, and, can those be done in one room that's flexible or two rooms? And the child watch was something that was new to me. Instead of child care, it's child watch, which sounded like a good option at both the locations that had it. And making sure that we have a flex room for birthday parties that goes off to the pool. And the other two big things were, for the pools, was HVAC system, that we have the correct contractor for that. And Lake Oswego made a very strong point that we get a pool pump company. It is not the one that they use. That was most likely going to be from out of state. And then enough parking. Lake Oswego is already short on parking. Chehalem says that they're pretty booked as well when they have meets or after school. So making sure we have that. Let's see. A note that Chehalem didn't give me the numbers, but they are in the black, so they're making money. And my concern about Redmond, I liked the facility. I think there were some things that didn't necessarily fit us, but I was a little bit concerned about using a new product on the siding, and they did have an initial problem, and then they redid it. But I hate to be a guinea pig on a new product, and it was the first project for that particular contractor. They were great people. I think they did a great job. But again, nice to have somebody with a little bit more experience when you're putting in millions of dollars. There you go. Councilor Berry.
Yep. Okay, so try not to repeat too much, but long-term durability as a function of decision-making early on in terms of trying to lower the cost versus thinking in long-term durability and the longer shelf life of the project in initial construction costs. So I think what we saw and how that plays out is a riskier building for a natatorium is a pre-engineered metal building or a PEMB, which is what we saw in Redmond, and they navigated the challenges. And it was a high-performance coating issue on the metal in the natatorium in the ceiling framing structure. But again, they navigated it. Versus the rest of the buildings we saw were primarily stick-built traditional construction methods. I think other things were sort of staff spaces, what works, what didn't work. Lake Oswego is already outgrowing, fighting for a good office space, and Redmond hasn't moved in yet. They seem to have an ample offering, so making sure we know what potential future staffing is, plan for this facility to be successful and be able to meet the needs of what a successfully programmed facility is. Also consider staffing with pool features and amenities. So it's the temptation is to have a lot of fenestration or glass and beautiful views in the pool. From a staffing lifeguard perspective, the more glare, the harder it is to manage kids in the pool, and therefore you need lifeguards more frequently, more often. So cutting down on that will cut down on continuous staffing, as well as that plays in with amenities and features in there. So that vortex, high wall, low area in a contained zone almost has to have a dedicated staff just to be able to see the bottom where kids might unfortunately go and be unobserved. So keeping staffing in mind as we talk about those amenities, so biased amenities that can be easily managed from multiple points. What community, so decide early on what community amenities we want to offer and program and integrate those if we want to commit. So some instances, some facilities we're going to rent this room out to the community for XYZ purposes, or we're going to rent this room out for whatever. I think deciding if that's something we want to offer and running with that, so we make sure we have ample staffing that doesn't need to program that at all times, but also keeping that free if we want to offer it, or not having it if we decide we don't want to offer that. Having a high-quality dry side replete with programmable amenities and offerings, so making sure we are doing the nice gym and deciding what amenities we want to do and really sticking to those and making it, again, believing in the success of the facility when we design it, not sort of trying to chip away at those and failing and making something that people want to come to and so they don't. I think thinking of administration and where those people are going to go, and safety and design, I kind of talked about that, but managing a large facility and trying to have one entrance, one checkpoint to distribute throughout the facility will help in administration. Consider maintenance as part of the initial design. So where's the maintenance room? How are we going to manage the maintenance? What are the systems? Are they easily maintainable? Are they tough to maintain? And if we want to make that trade-off, are we going to be able to continually maintain the facility to be able to manage that trade-off? Ample parking, both for people and for buses, if we do want to host those big events. An owner's rep is very important. Drop-in child watch, I think, is good. I think it'd be a really good amenity. And it goes back to also safety and design, making sure if we do have a child watch area, it's in a place that parents feel safe leaving their children, and it's observable and not easily accessible. One design feature that does or doesn't contribute to the cost is the height of the facilities and also the stories. So all but a small part of Newburgh were single story, and where Newburgh went 2 stories, it was in a mezzanine style walking track over their gym, which was the concreted in old pool, and they accomplished that with a very rudimentary lift that I thought I was stuck in until I read the sign, and you have to hold the button, and so understanding and recognizing and getting early commitments from our competitive needs users and leaning in and designing those, and that does come with early commitments for a type of event we want to host, which comes with certain requirements in the design. So a third or additional size locker room for the dedicated team at a certain size event, certain square footage of deck space you need to do for a certain division of NCAA event, making sure we understand those and knowing we're going to design to that level so we can host those, or we're not going to design to those, and so we're not going to be able to host those. And then storage. That's my note.
Councilor Tukolsky, do you have anything you want to share?
Yeah. I was unable to attend these, so I apologize for that. Had other commitments, like work. The one thing I did want to add, based on my experience of traveling around and actually frequenting these with my children all over the western United States, was I found that most of these places become situated in areas that are away from facilities for food and I'll just say basically food. They all seem to become a food desert. And then what happens is you have these large meets, everyone is there, half of them didn't bring any food with them, or they have food in the car. There's no place to eat outside if you did bring a picnic. or if you did bring a cooler full of sandwiches or something. I know there's DoorDash and, Uber Eats and all that, but you have all these vehicles coming in and out. It would be nice if we had facilities set up, or if we considered to have facilities set up so that you could have food trucks that came in that could operate in that area, that actually had power set up so that they didn't have to use generators, and they also had the level pads where they could put their trucks, and also facilities for basically the wastewater, the gray water, because that's in the oils. If we could accommodate that and make it easy for them, I think it would be better for everyone. You're not driving around everywhere looking for food. People actually enjoy themselves because they're not driving around the city looking for food. And it's just one thing I found that's necessary. It wasn't mentioned. Everybody else mentioned quite a bit, so thank you. That's all.
Councilor Benner, would you like to add anything?
I need to educate myself before I contribute, but I do have a background in bond oversight and passing bonds, and so I'm in a construction background, so I'm very excited about this, and I'm very much in support of it, but I just need a little bit more time to get up to speed. Thank you.
Councilor Peralta?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say I really appreciate the comments from councilors who pointed out and the mayor who pointed out that we need to make a decision as to whether we want this pool to be able to host district meets and NCAA meets, and that'll lead us into a couple of different directions. The other comment I'd make is that I think we've had testimony to this effect, but I would just like to kind of reiterate how much we have outgrown the existing pool, not just in parking, but in terms of actual physical space in the pool. And for those who don't spend a lot of time in our existing pool, I'd suggest go down and take a look at the pool at 11 o'clock during the arthritis class, or pretty much any time during family swim, on evenings or weekends, or especially during the summer, because the pool is too packed to really be used. I mean, particularly that arthritis class looks like a can of sardines in that small pool. So I really do think we need to right-size it for the community, but the pool we have is not right-sized for the community currently. And then with regard to the dry land amenities, I really appreciate the comments on that. My daughter was on the swim team for several years, so I've also traveled around to a bunch of the pools. One amenity that we don't have in the city that might be worth considering, I don't think it's a particularly expensive one, is a rock climbing wall. And so that's just my other suggestion, is maybe a rock climbing wall would be something we consider.
One other thing I just want to get in there is seating for the aquatic, and have it maybe not like we have it right now, but Newburgh had some raised seating. It wasn't 2 stories, but at least more of a raised seating that we can have at least, I think it was 300 is what we have now. And I wouldn't want to go any less. We have 500. 500. That's a big difference. Any other comments?
I would just say the other element that the competitive supporters find good about not only the size, but its incredible elevated nature, that you aren't in the way, you can see everything going on, and it's a good vantage point. Sticking to one floor, you basically are putting people on the deck, and so it poses some challenges.
Councilor Tukalski?
Yeah, I wanted to answer Councilor Peralta's comment there, or make a comment toward it. I do support this being a competitive facility, because I do think that it's a large tourism draw. It gives us opportunity to create revenue. It also gives our local swim team and other swim teams the opportunity to compete in a competition pool, and actually, I don't see why we wouldn't do that, so I support that.
City Manager Garvin, did you have anything you wanted to weigh in on it?
Before I got to that, I wanted to turn it over to Public Works Director Jeff Hunsaker, who pinched hit for me on those Tuesday tours because I had something else going on.
Yeah, I wasn't able to get to the Redmond facility, but for the other tours, some of the stuff that I'm glad I hear council saying that they heard, speaking about owner's representation during a construction project, that's a really great way to get an expert on board to help you build smart and work through a lot of this stuff. Well, I've done a lot of building in my history or my career. Building a pool or a recreation facility is slightly different, as everybody mentioned. We heard a lot of good feedback on CMGC contracting and that ability to choose contractors just not on price but on merit, which is always good when you're doing a very large investment of this size. Another thing that I think was good to see was on the Tuesday stuff with some of our Parks and Rec staff that were able to go is heavily involving operators when you're looking at design. We look at things differently when we walk into a facility. We think, how are we going to get this clean? How are we going to handle that dark corner over there? Is this going to be a large enough office space for us? So I think that was great that you included those staff members with you on that part of the tours. And finally, for me with construction, I think simple can be beautiful. So I liked to hear about maybe not looking for a never been used before product or anything like that. Tried and true works really great for most things, and you don't have to overthink something to have it be very functional and can still be very beautiful. I'm the kind of person that thinks concrete's beautiful, though, so I get it. I'm a little different in that way, but that's all I had to add.
Thank you, Jeff. So before I share my thoughts, I do have all the staff that toured facilities, I asked them to compile their thoughts and then summarize that, as well as we had Coach Morello on the Redmond tour as well. And so the following things would be all of those individuals: Katie Noy, Jenny Berg, Josh from the pool, and then Morello. Between all of them, there's clear direction for a new integrated facility over renovation. Most of the concern was around the renovation carries a significant risk due to the unknown infrastructure that we have in the pool, as well as unexpected conditions can lead to extended closures. Woodburn's closed for about 18 months, but could easily extend past 2 years. There's concerns there around losing users during the long-term shutdowns with no guarantee that they would return. A new facility would bring operational efficiency, long-term cost control, and better user experience and program delivery. The one building model of a dry side and wet side, the pool membership drives the daily traffic, the dry side, the fitness, courts, and programs generates the revenue to expand offerings. Together, they create a mutually reinforcing system that leads to higher utilization, broader community access, and stronger financial stability. Design must prioritize function, not just form. Major takeaways across all the tours was that the design decisions directly impact operations, safety, and long-term success. Some of the design pros and cons were the clear sight lines, especially in the aquatic areas, as some of you mentioned, for lifeguard visibility, avoiding overly complex pool shapes or excessive walls between comp and rec pools that create blind spots, adequate deck space for spectator seating for events, and logical circulation and entry points to control access, but also improve flow of the overall facility. Most of the pitfalls that were mentioned were undersized pump in mechanical rooms. I believe one of your guys' tours didn't even have a crane to get the pumps out of the mechanical well. Seems very problematic when you think of work comp claims and equipment failures and things like that. So that was called out multiple times. Poor HVAC performance, especially in the aquatic environments, and some of those systems failing out of the gate. And so making sure that we are very intentional about our HVAC and mechanical. Inadequate staff workspace, inefficient or confusing layouts. billed for operations, storage, staff space, and maintenance. All staff emphasize that day-to-day operations must drive the design and not the design drive the day-to-day operations. Staff space must be adequate for today, but also scalable for future growth. Maintenance and custodial teams should be involved early to ensure ease of access, efficient workflows, and long-term durability. Flexibility and multi-use drive revenue and community value. Facilities that perform best were those that were designed for flexibility, specifically multi-purpose rooms for classes, events, and rentals, spaces that can adapt throughout the day, increase revenue opportunities and community use. The child watch area that you called out, Mayor, was also mentioned by staff, and making sure that's a child watch area and not a child care area. Sensory and privacy rooms, so if a youth or anybody's having a difficult time, they have a spot that they can decompress, as well as potentially a mom might need to breastfeed or something like that, so have the ability there. Event spaces connected to the pool areas, we saw that in Redmond where you had some event rental space that connected directly to the rec room. That was called out by staff. And then technology integration, cameras, and programming support. We also saw that in Redmond, how the community kitchen that they had there, you could deploy a camera to view that in a different part of the facility because that kitchen was rather small. Aquatics require specialized expertise and intentional design, align pool design with competition standards, ensure sufficient deck space, seating, and lifeguard coverage, plan for both competitive use and recreational community use. Couple of them made recommendations to partner with an experienced aquatic design firm, such as Councilman Hunsaker, which I believe is conflicting with, they were in Chehalem and very liked, and a few of you shared that they were in Lake Oswego and not liked. So I think could have been whoever was the project manager from that person, but that would be something to flush out. And really that's to ensure functional design, cost efficiency, and proven performance. Plan for a full user experience. Don't just design it for the users, but design it for the parents, the spectators, and the families that need a place to wait comfortably and clear view of activities. Avoid bottlenecks in locker rooms and entry areas. Incorporate universal design elements. One staff member was very passionate about zero-depth entry pools, as well as a few mentioned ADA-friendly features and how much the community of Lake Oswego has called that out in their facility. Get the systems right the first time, the HVAC, the mechanical and pump room design, and the lighting and glare control around the pool that I believe Councilor Geary mentioned. Specifically, those areas would be not areas to value engineer late in the design process, but to be very intentional about that their core functions to long-term success of a facility. Those staff members came from operations, programming, and aquatics, but throughout all their independently written reports, they all had very consistent themes. And so I wanted to make sure that was shared with you guys as you mull over what the path forward is. For myself, I would echo what a lot was shared here, what Jeff shared, but more than anything, Redmond aligned at that tip of the spear technology with that high performance coating and that pre-engineered metal to meet a budget, to not sacrifice what they promise the community. And so I think one thing is be realistic about what we promise a community, but I would have concerns about using a product that doesn't have multi-generational track record of being tried and proven. I personally would like to see a product that's either stick-built or potentially mass timber, but that gets you a higher cost per square foot than this pre-engineered metal, but I think it gets you a proven product in a longer term. So those would be my thoughts right now, but would like some direction on Size-wise, for those that traveled Redmond, is that the square footage you're looking for? Obviously, I heard the pools, the aquatic side of that didn't seem like it met a lot of those that did the tours scope, but as far as cost and size, if you guys are comfortable with a sub $80 million bond ask, that's about the size of the facility that you can afford.
Redmond is?
Yeah.
I kind of liked Chehalem, honestly, was kind of the one I liked the most when I look at them. I think there was some wasted space in the Lake Oswego, I mean, in some of the hallways. Redmond was okay. I'm not sure about the gym and the yoga room and all of their design.
Yeah, not the layout or the
Square
design, but
footage-wise.
just like
So just
this.
trying to think of square footage based on looking at those.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be somewhere in there, I would say, maybe somewhere close to that.
I'm not a fan of building new, but that being said, it's really hard to visualize Redmond for me. One side was really easy to visualize, but understanding how the other side is actually going to play out and what it's going to look like conceptually, even looking at the pictures, for some reason my brain just couldn't gel on the recreational side of that. That's
Recreational side or the aquatic side?
The rec pool side, I think.
The rec pool side.
The wet side.
I also was remiss to say, although the driving made me really nervous, I was very appreciative to have a driver on the second set of 3 tours.
You're welcome. Took me a second.
I think, as we formulated the first round too, I think Redmond is kind of that, good starting point to tweak off of. We need more space around that competitive pool for spectators, which they didn't really integrate. They don't have the same demands and needs, and they were achieving some of their, I'll be able to watch my child swim when it's their heat via technology or a standby area, and then coming in for that, and then heading out. So I think pulling some of those other amenities or interstitial spaces and dedicating it towards that, and tightening things up, or being right around there, just sort of refining to our amenities and seeing where that plays out is sound.
Just a question.
Councilor Peralta?
So the Redmond facility is about 45 to 50,000 square feet.
55, I think.
55, and then ours is 28?
Our current pool?
Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
Thank you.
What's Chehalem?
Probably around that 50, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Anybody know that? They're inquiring here.
Redmond was 56,000. Lako was 64,000. No, that's the total facility. Woodburn and Chehalem, I don't have total square footage. And for reference for that, the next meeting around retrofitting, Woodburn's facility is 9 acres and originally opened in 95, where our pool infrastructure was put in the 50s, and then the building was put up and made full enclosure in 86, or I believe 86, yeah.
I think based on what we saw, I would say that we're probably going to have to be in that 50,000 square feet area. I think Chehalem didn't have a lot of extra rooms, but I also think that we need to have some rooms, but have them be flexible spaces. So, but it had one gym, which is all we need. It did have a track, which we can or can't do, depending on what's set up. But I think that's probably about where square footage we need to look at. Yeah. Very similar to that. Any other comments? No? What else would you like to know? Numbers?
Your guys' appetite for, a sub $80 million ask. knowing we still need to have the retrofit conversation, but that would help shape future conversations that I'm having between now and then.
I think if we're talking about a 55,000 square foot building, I think we're looking at an $80 million build, is my guess, but.
I think coming from a right size, the whole bond ask was sort of my thought on the whole, phase 2 of this, and the hope is that we can keep the full sanctity of the best possible new facility, recreation center, and it was sort of stripping away the additional package of amenities that we had elsewhere, parks and senior center and the like. But so ending up with an 80-ish was I think what I heard kind of rough consensus around when we had that conversation last, and I think trying to get there. But I think what I'm hearing is more important is making sure both we don't creep way back up to only coming back out with a $90 million bond, right? But ensuring that we're trying to get the best program for about 80 would be a good balance of that, making sure we can hit those targets, give the community what we talked to them about, and keep it at a lower price point.
Right. Councilor Tukalski?
Yeah. Yeah, this is, there's no science behind what I'm going to say, but it's like, I think originally we had a $150 million bond, 152, and then we just talked about the original square footage was 110,000?
131 was the original.
131,000, okay, so it's significant. I'd just like to see us keep it at like a 75 million bond with a 55,000 square foot facility. So,
Somewhere in that area is what we're looking at. I think it's going to depend on some of the Linfield and what we're going to do with NCAA. I mean, that's play into it as well. But I think we check, see where we're at.
Yeah, there's still a lot of unknown questions, but we just needed a direction to have these conversations with the architects and with Ken Ballard for programming and with Pence. So we have a target to actually put something back in front of you guys and say, this is what this will buy you. This is a space that you could get for this. This is a square footage. But not knowing for sure if you guys had an appetite for that, I didn't want to be chasing a moving goalpost.
I think we're all set in about that.
Mayor, if I could.
Or better.
Because I'm unclear if these conversations took place previously, but if I could get an understanding if from the 3 bonds that I worked on at the school district, if we lost by 13 votes, we would have just rolled it back out again. And so if you could help, if the rest of the counselors could educate me on why we're not doing that, that would be helpful.
I can jump a little bit into this, and I would say that one of the main reasons, and it's a reason why I supported taking the time that we needed, was that a lot of the numbers specifically around remodeling the current facility were just kind of thrown out like a while ago, and they weren't necessarily deep dived into to see exactly what it would take to get there. And when we saw that there was a facility in Redmond being built for $50 million, and that there were other facilities kind of in the same situation, that we really wanted to dive a bit more into what we could get for a lower price point at that point in time.
Anybody else want to chime in there?
I'm definitely the minority voice in this conversation. And I appreciate that that's where I sit, but I have asked from the beginning of this process for remodel costs of existing facilities, and never have we had accurate, true remodel costs. We've thrown mud at the wall and see if it sticks kind of thing. So I'd still like to see that as a true transparent conversation with the community, to have that information available. I mean, if it comes out that I'm wrong, or that it's really close to new. Obviously, that frames the conversation with accurate information as opposed to guesswork information. So that, for me, that's been one of my sticking points all the way through this process, because it feels like we're aiming toward a goal rather than finding out the real facts. So there's that. And then secondarily, I knew Redmond was a $49 million pool. Lake Oswego was a $46 million community aquatic center with dry side. Both of them are. We're in the 50 million range, so it seemed like even at new we were overpricing what we were doing.
Councilor Peralta?
Thank you, Carson. I think that's a really good question, why we didn't go just straight back up with the same project. And from my perspective, I had questions that I still wanted to have answered about the previous project. My understanding is at the end of it, we were not going to have the competitive sized pool, and it seemed like we might be able to pare back the project a little bit, keep the core of what we wanted for the community, make it a little bit more affordable and more right-sized for the community. And so I thought it was worth having that conversation to just review where we had been last year, and it didn't pass. So again, I think reducing the cost to make it more affordable for people, try and get the building that will meet the community needs. Those were my main thoughts, and I felt like I still had questions, even though we had a much bigger price tag.
I agree. I wanted more education on to really what do we need, what do they look like, and doing the site visits was really important to me because I'm a very visual person. Also, we only failed by 3, but you don't want to go back out and fail again. So I felt like education was necessary, answer the community's questions. It's like, really, what are they getting for that? What's the operation? What are we doing with the existing facilities if we build new? Those were all questions that I felt I would like to know. And most of the community members that were negative, those were some of the questions, and being able to go through this process and answers those also, I think, gives me the ability that at the time, I can be more supportive because I'm educated. Councilor Tukalski?
Yeah, if I may just answer your question, and from my perspective, one of the reasons that I was hesitant to support it in its entirety to begin with was, first of all, the price tag to the taxpayers, even at the 98 million one. Second was the facilities that exist today had a very weak plan going forward. There was not much depth to the question of what are we going to do with the community center, the pool that we have today. Anything else that gets replaced, and when I did speak with a singular MacPac person, like I say, that this is one point. That person just said, I don't know, that's not for us to figure out, that's for the city to figure out. So that didn't sit well with me, not having a plan moving forward. Yes, sir. Is that better? I'm trying to be polite and have eye contact. Yeah. No, the other part of it, now I lost my train of thought. The other part of it that I had a challenge with was community members were going to be taxed on the bond, and that's fine because that's how bonds work. The problem was that we still had people that would have required a $1,200 yearly membership to use the facility. So it became cost prohibitive for a lot of people at that rate, which is why I didn't want to just push it back out there. So, is that better? Yeah.
Thank you all for indulging me. That helps frame the issue.
All right, give you what you need for now?
I have what I needed unless you guys had any final thoughts or direction you wanted to give me. But to Councilor Chenoweth's point, we'll have something around the aquatic center on the 28th is what we're targeting right now. And I specifically reached out to the Woodburn city manager after their mayor was so nice to indulge Councilor President Peralta and Councilor Cunningham and I at the COG dinner. And that's what piqued my interest in that facility, and they were very nice to align with the other tours. And so I thought that was about as close to a local comparable that we could get to put in front of you guys.
The thing that was really neat about that from my perspective, because I'm not a contractor, right? You don't want me to build squat. That would be a bad idea. And build a computer, yes, but not a building. So hearing them talk about what they found damaged in that building was really interesting. It was stick-built building, and it's not the wood that was the problem. It was all the metal in the building that was the problem. And so, you know, whatever preconceived ideas about what we have is going to be the best option, it's hard to know 20 years ago or 20 years later what it's really going to end up looking like, which I thought was very interesting.
Okay. I am going to adjourn the meeting at 9:48 p.m. The City Council will now be going into an executive session. The executive session is pursuant to ORS 192.6602H to consult with counsel concerning the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. Does any counselor have any need to recuse himself or have a conflict of interest? Hearing none, we're going to go into executive session.